This is Man City Fan TV Podcast Raw. This week I'm joined by Kiam and Willy. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Rob.
Very good, Rob. Cheers.
So, Kiam is joining us all the way from British Columbia, Vancouver, British Columbia, and William is joining us all the way from sunny Paisley in Scotland. So, have you heard any stories recently, fellas, about what's going on with Manchester City? Any transfer news? Fabian Delph going to Everton for £8 million. Are we signing Pele? Are we signing Wayne Rooney? I've heard he's playing football in America these days. Are we desperate for a striker, or what's going on?
Not really heard any stories as such. I think the main one is, what's his name? Douglas Luiz. I think he's rumoured to be going to Aston Villa. I don't know if that's gone through. But no. I reckon that's going to be that'll be a good move, actually, because I think he needs to get that work permit secured, and he's only going to do it by playing some games.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, Jay, the guy who was on the podcast the other week, said to me that the issue was that he couldn't get a work permit until he played for a club, but he also couldn't get a work permit until he represented Brazil or something like that. Now, is that situation changed, or is that just wrong information? Or
yeah, I'm not too sure about the playing for Brazil bit. I think if he's guaranteed game time, whether it be for Brazil or for his club, then that'll be enough to get him through the sort of, the tests for the work permit. That's my understanding of it. Could be wrong.
Do you think we'll ever see him in a City shirt? Because he's, 21 years old now?
Possibly. I mean, it all depends. I mean, if he takes the Premier League by storm and ends up, absolutely battering it for Villa and storming the league, then obviously City are going to want to take him back. So as long as there's a good buyback clause in there, reasonable amount, maybe like 25 mil, then we could get him back and he could play for City. But my initial thoughts on him when I've seen him play in sort of pre-season is I think there's a lot of development. He needs a lot of work. He looked a little bit off the pace when I saw him in the pre-season, but it was too early to judge. And obviously, it's only a few games in pre-season, so I can't really make a full judgment on that.
Oh, he plays the defensive midfield role, right?
Yeah, defensive midfield, holding role, a bit like the Fernandinho role. Well, I think he's a little bit more adventurous from what I've seen in some of his videos.
You see, you just said that about Fernandinho, but sometimes I think Fernandinho has been let off the leash a couple of times, and he has surprised us all going forward. But I get what you mean. Maybe a little bit mobile, a bit more agile. But I mean, if we've got Rodri in that position, do you think he's going to get many games, even if he does take the Premier League by storm? Because Rodri's not exactly going to be, if everything's to believe, Rodri's not exactly going to be a waste of space in that DM role, is he? Or is it just healthy competition?
It's healthy competition, I'd say. I mean, I've got a few thoughts on the Rodri transfer, and they're probably not the most popular thoughts out there. But I'm holding my judgment on the Rodri thing because everybody's raving about him. But I always find with City, whenever we rave about a signing and we all get giddy about it, like we all raved about Mangala, we raved about Boney. I sometimes think.
Whoa! Hold your horses on that one. Nobody raved about Boney. Come on now, let's be sensible.
No, I don't know. I think they did because didn't he score like 20 odd goals for Swansea, and everyone was like, "He's the answer." And I think I was one of them, to be honest. I'll hold my hands up. I was one of them.
When you look at a team like Swansea, they play one particular brand of football, and if you're the target for that one brand of football, then you're gonna get 20 goals. There are so many teams, even in the Premier League, that are based around that one philosophy: get the ball into that one guy, and you throw enough shit and some will stick, right? You're gonna score goals if you're the only outlet for the goal scoring. I mean, actually scoring the goals is a different matter, sure thing. But I was never ever convinced by Wilfried Boney. He's a big unit, fair enough, but he never was to me a Manchester City player. Never was.
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the time, to be honest, I was defending him. I was pretty excited because I thought we needed like a big fella up front holding the ball up to bring the other, more skillful players into the game.
Back then under Pellegrini possibly, but not the way we play now.
No. Oh no, not now. Definitely not. No, I wouldn't have him now. I wouldn't have him making the tea at half time. No.
So you're holding judgment on Rodri, which is fair because
a
lot of people. I mean, I got into it years ago. Remember Isco? Yes, in about 2011 or 2012, somebody sent me this YouTube highlight clip of Isco, and I thought, fuck me, he's bread and butter. He is, sign him up. And he's a decent player, and I know that we courted him for many, many years, but everyone seems to send me these highlight reels of these footballers that City are linked with, and it's like, well, great, they've done it in the Spanish league, or they've done it in the French league, or they've done it in the German league. I've got a bad rap for all of those leagues. I don't rate any of their domestic leagues that highly. The Premier League I do rate highly, but those other domestic leagues don't rate highly. So I always think, fine, they've done it in that league, and you've shown me some nice highlights. I noticed how you've admitted all of the bits where they fucked up or got something wrong, whatever. But it
Yeah, I
will
was
be a
gonna
highlight
say,
reel with that.
you can put anything on a YouTube highlight and
Yeah.
make anybody look great.
But my judgment call on Rodri is out as well until we've seen him for a season. But hopefully he isn't a Mangala. And the thing about Mangala as well, I mean, Mangala was it against Chelsea. Mangala was like the best defender in the world for one game. If you remember that Chelsea game, what, like 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, he was good actually. I think with Rodri, this might sound crazy, but physically he reminds me of Javi Garcia.
Yeah,
we used to have, and I don't know if he's going to have the pace and the physicality for the Premier League. That's my worry, because the Premier League, you soon get found out in the midfield in a fast Premier League game. So that's my sort of, not fear, that's just sort of my reservations on it. So hopefully he proves me wrong, because obviously if I'm proved wrong, then City are doing well.
A lot of people have drawn comparisons between Rodri and Biscuits, haven't they, at Barcelona? But
yeah,
when you Biscuits in that Barcelona team, 70% of the games you play are piss easy. You can switch off, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion in the Spanish league. And the other 30% of the games I've seen him playing in, his first touch is a tackle, and it's a foul, and it's a yellow card. He's probably a world-class player, and I'm probably not seeing it. But I think he's decent. But to me, Biscuits never did it in the Premier League, so I could never tell you whether he's a good player or not. He probably is in the Spanish league. You probably feel completely differently about Busquets than I do, but
yeah, I think with Busquets, to be honest, in that Barcelona team, there's so many superstars in that team. You could probably, and this sounds a bit arrogant, with obviously being City fan now, we've got such a good team, but we could probably stick me or you in the midfield, and we could pinpoint a few passes onto Messi's foot, or just knock it about, and you get away with it a bit.
Yeah, sure.
So until you take somebody out of their comfort zone and put them into a bit of a tougher situation, like Rodri, he's coming to a great team, but still the Premier League is a different sort of kettle of fish, in it, when you're away at Burnley and the old rainy night at Stoke and all that.
People say the piss out of me for using that adage, but it is completely true. Yeah, I totally get it that there are so many players that have come over here and proven that point wrong, but there are so many players also that have come over here and just been absolute fucking flops when they've been amazing in their own leagues or their own comfort zones. And I still, again, I'm going to get crucified again for saying it, but Lionel Messi, he's probably a really good footballer, but I've never seen him play in the Premier League over 38 games. I've never seen him have to play on a Tuesday night in the League Cup because the fucking other players are injured. I've never had to see him do that many run of games together. So I'll never know. People, this all the Ballon d'Or shit between Ronaldo and Messi. Like Ronaldo, for as much as I hate him because he played for United, he had, 3-4 seasons in the Premier League. So I know he was a fucking good player, apart from against City, because he usually got sent off against City. But I'll never know with Messi because he's never ever been out of that Barcelona comfort zone. So I'll never know what he's like in a Premier League team. So I can never ever truly rate him, in my opinion. But Rodri, for a season, we'll see. For what is it, 63 million he's cost us?
Yeah, just a little snip, bargain.
Well, the thing is, I know you said that sort of glibly there, but when it comes to record signings and marquee signings, we never really push the boat out, do we? We never really spend that 80, 90, 100 million. Eden Hazard, at 28 years old, has gone to Spain, hasn't he, for 100 million or something like that.
I think we should have done it for one player, though, and we made a big mistake. I think Virgil van Dijk.
Really?
Yeah, you saw it in the All or Nothing documentary where they were talking about it, and I think it was Soriano and Caldoun, or Tixi and Soriano, and they mentioned 75 mil, and they were just laughing at that figure. But I think the guy is a really good defender, and I think he's basically been the difference between Liverpool finishing where United are and actually competing at the top against us. So I know he gets overrated. I mean, he's not a Ballon d'Or contender. That's ridiculous. But I do rate the guy a lot.
I think he's a very good defender. I just don't think he'd work in our system because Liverpool have 3 players sat in front of him babysitting him, and he does make mistakes. He has massively improved the Liverpool team, but I think there's quite a lot of Premier League teams below Manchester City that are just so far off the pace that they really are the best of the rest. And they are the best of the rest by some points from last season, fair enough. It wasn't enough points to win the league, but I mean, you look where Chelsea were at the end of last season, Arsenal were at the end of last season. I mean, Tottenham have got 11 players and a bunch of shit substitutes, so they were always going to falter. Man United are basically relegation fodder these days. So Liverpool were always, for me, going to take points in those games, even though they didn't manage it at Old Trafford, which was fucking hilarious. But I do think he's a great centre half. But you're saying 75 million for Van Dijk. At the same time, we signed Laporte. Laporte to me is just a different class completely. I think
that was a lot cheaper as well.
Yeah, Laporte was 50 million. I mean, Van Dijk has got what is he, 27, 28? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's about 28. Yeah, I think he is 28. I mean, there is the age difference there. I think there's 2 completely different types of player. I don't know. For me, I think Van Dijk probably just edges it over Laporte, and I know that's controversial.
Right now he might do.
Yeah.
Right now he might do because he's peaking, but Laporte's got so much more to offer in the future.
Yeah, I was critical of Laporte when he first arrived. I was a little bit sort of critical of the guy, but he's proved me completely wrong. I was talking absolute crap. So hold my hands up on that one.
I mean, I've made various points. I mean, in the last podcast, I talked about why Manchester City must sign Harry Maguire. Now, it doesn't even matter whether that's my personal opinion or not. I think Andy made a video about the statistics of Maguire and all the rest of it, but I just think that the 3 or 4 centre halves that we've got at the club currently, and when I say that, I mean Sandler, Garcia. I'm not even talking about Otamendi right now. Sandler, Garcia, Stones, and Laporte. They're all one particular type of defender, which is why I also said that I don't think Garcia would ever make it into the first team because he doesn't offer anything that those, Laporte and Stones already offer. What we needed was something completely different, and that's why Van Dijk or Maguire do offer that something completely different. So. And that's why I did think we should go for Maguire. But now what we're looking at for Maguire, 75, 80 million again. So it is about the price of what a Van Dijk would have cost us. But
I listened to your podcast, Rob, when you the one where you mentioned about Harry Maguire, and I was like fist pumping in the air, going, "Yes, I agree. Everything you said, I completely agreed with it." And then all of a sudden, Nathan Ake's name came out of the hat.
Yeah,
and I actually think he's a better option. I do.
Is he Dutch, Nathan Ake?
Yeah, he's Dutch. Yeah.
I think you've always got to remember that silly little thing about the I don't know, would Nathan Ake count as a homegrown player because he was at Chelsea from the youth? I don't know how that shit works, but
I don't know on that actually.
I think in all reality, Maguire is probably worth 50 million, but you've got 20 million tax on there for him being British or English or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I would be happy at the end of the summer if we signed either of those 2 players, but I think Maguire just edges it for me. And I also think that we could survive a season if we didn't sign any of them, to be honest. But I do think we need that extra player because do you remember 2 seasons ago when John Stones was just fucking king of the world for the first half of the season? I think it was that year when they did the documentary, and then he got quite a bad injury, didn't he? And then for me, I think it was Otamendi that sort of took over then and just fucking started bossing it.
Yeah, John Stones is a weird one, isn't he? He's so hot and cold. He's either sort of Baresi level or Sunday League level. I just can't make him out. 1 week I watch him, I think he's turned the corner. He's going to be our new leader, our new captain, and then the week after he's like misplacing passes. And
I think the only way you can truly judge John Stones is if he actually gets 38 straight games without injuries. There are certain players in the world that can just fucking play, just run themselves into the ground. Bernardo Silva being one of them. And I think if Bernardo Silva was in and out the team, like in for a game and out for 3, in for a game, I think Bernardo Silva wouldn't be as good as he is if that was the case with him as well. So I think John Stones, yeah, I totally get what you're saying about the fucking Sunday League football sometimes. But I think I don't know how much.
Interesting because I think his confidence has been knocked a lot after those.
Yeah. But I don't know how much of that comes from. How much of that comes from the bench? How much of the bench screaming at him? Just go forward, John. Just fucking go for one. Just do it. And how much of that is coming from in his own head, and how much of it is that he can't tell the difference sometimes, whether he should be doing something or he shouldn't be doing something. So I think to go back to the Van Dijk thing, by the way, I think if John Stones would have been partnered with Van Dijk, I think John Stones would have been the world's best defender by now, because he would have always had that fucking foundation behind him. You know what I mean? I don't think Stones and Laporte, although it is like a mouth-watering centre-half partnership, I think they're both the same age and they're both as adventurous as each other. So maybe they sort of like, I don't know whether they try and outdo each other or they don't know how to boss each other or they don't know who the leader is. But there is certainly.
Yeah, they're very similar. They're both ball-playing centre-backs, aren't they?
Whereas you need one ball player and you need one fucking hammer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like you said in the previous podcast, you mentioned losing company. We've lost our aggression, we've lost our meathead, if you like, in the defence. And now, if we replace it with, if it is John Stones or even Nathan Ake, that's the one thing Ake probably doesn't have. He hasn't got that aggression, he hasn't got the size, the frame. Whereas Maguire would come in, and the guy, let's be honest, he's a big unit. He's not the most graceful, but he would get stuck in. And he's the kind of guy who would just, in the changing room, I think he'd just gee everyone up. And, he's just that kind of, he looks like that. I mean, I don't know, he might be quiet. He might sit on his iPad in the changing room for all I know.
A leader-like company who just takes charge.
That's why
and then goes, I'm just going to go, I think Maguire would offer that because from what I've watched Maguire, he's not much of a ball-playing player. And he can maybe shore the defence up, tell people where to stand. He can be the one with the voice on the pitch, if you like, whereas Laporte can just go and spread passes about and ping them out to the wing or wherever the ball needs to go.
The crazy thing is, I mean, I totally agree, by the way, but to me, that's why you choose Maguire over Ake, because perhaps he is that voice, perhaps he is that leader, because he's, 26 years old now. So let's say that we've got Maguire for 4, 5, 6 years. Because the first season, I don't see any player, unless they're a fucking phenomenal, world-class, confident bastard, I don't see anyone stepping into this current Manchester City team and deciding that they're boss. I don't see anybody doing that. That would be an impossible ask for anybody. You can't come into this team that's just got 198 points in 2 seasons and say, right, I'm going to start bossing you around now. It doesn't happen. But when you look at the pitch without Vincent Kompany on it, I think Fernandinho is a fucking world-class player in his position, but I don't think he's a shouter. I don't think he's a fucking motivator. I think he tries to lead by example through his football, sure, but I don't think he's geeing up the rest of the players. I think the only player on the pitch right now that potentially could be doing that sort of thing would be someone like Kyle Walker, but I don't even think Kyle Walker is the best person for that job, if that makes sense. Can you see any player? I mean, David Silva, the guy is a field mouse. He's a world-class footballer. He's my favourite footballer of all time, but he's not. He'll have the captain's armband next season, but he won't be fucking screaming at people in the changing room. I don't see anyone in
there. There has to be a balance. The balance for me, when you're picking a captain, you've got to have, and you'll know yourselves if you've played football, you've got to have respect on the pitch for the guy's ability. So if somebody isn't that good, or they're not pulling their weight, or they're making mistakes, like Kyle Walker, you mentioned Kyle Walker, he works his socks off, but he does do a lot of individual mistakes on the pitch. So you lose a little bit of that respect, I think, on there. So you need someone who's consistent every week, but also has that, like you say, vocal and strength of character to actually say it how it is. So it's finding that balance.
And that's the thing. I mean, I reckon we could all name 5, 6, 7 players that are consistent every week, but not vocal. So
KDB stands out for me. Kevin De Bruyne. I think he should be the next captain.
Do you remember that thing was it 2 years ago when he was being dragged off the pitch by the rest of the players saying, let me talk, let me talk. Do you remember that?
Yeah. The Silva was stopping him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, but at the same time, we could have fucking got 116 points last season and smashed every competition with fucking reserves if he was fit all season. So let's see a fit season from Kevin first. You know what I mean? Let's see a full season out of Kevin De Bruyne. And I think if David Silva didn't exist, then Kevin De Bruyne probably would get the armband next season. But obviously we've got to go through the Silva sort of end times. But I also don't think that Silva is going to spend a lot of time on the pitch next season, to be honest. I think he'll probably only have like 20, 25 games and quite a few substitute appearances. I don't think he's going to be a nailed on starting 11.
No, I agree. Actually, I think they will use him a little bit more sparingly because he just hasn't got the legs now. You know, we've seen it. We've seen it last season. He gets the ball and just that sharpness of. I mean, he relies on that quick turn, doesn't he? That little spin off his man and playing the ball through. And if you lose that, then you do drop off a level. And I think that's what he's done a bit. I think he's just dropped off slightly. He's still class. He's still one of the best players in the league. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, losing Vinny Company is probably going to be the biggest thing that's happened to City in a long, long time in terms of the impact on the dressing room. And I think it's going to be very interesting next season how we react to it.
And that was why, for me, like I've said before, that was why Maguire got another tick on his little fucking requirements form. And that's why, for me, he was a must-buy. Not the must-buy was the DM. The absolute fucking... We needed the DM no matter what. Fernandinho is a fucking silky player, world-class player, but he's going to be 35 or something next season. So that was never going to happen. We needed somebody else to get in there. I know that Pep tried... he tried John Stones for a game, and he got a fucking nosebleed because he went too far up the pitch, but... We needed that DM role, but getting Harry Maguire still for me. I know we've spent how much have we spent so far this season? Like
60 on Rodri.
Around the 70, 80, 90. Let's say we've spent 90 million. Let's say we've spent 90 just for the fuck of it, because someone will fucking bring out a calculator and say blah blah blah. But let's say we spent 90. If we spent another 75 on Harry Maguire right now, or even 80 on Harry Maguire, the articles are going to get fucking published regardless. People are going to slag us off. Even if we would have spent nothing this season and sold 20 players and made £12 billion, the articles will still get written out. We're all murderers and oil money and blah, 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 and buying the league and all the rest of that shit. So fuck it anyway. Just buy Harry Maguire. I still think we really need that potential leader, even if he is just, in the documentary they had Fabian Delph, and Fabian Delph in that season was a decent player. He still had a few rash moments and he still had a few dumb moments. He had twice as many dumb moments last season. But in the changing room, it was Yaya Toure, who obviously was like this father figure, and he'd done so much for the club and all the rest of it. And Yaya opens his mouth in the changing room and said, "Oh, we haven't got this, or we did this wrong." And Delph was the first one who stood up and went, "You're talking bollocks, mate. This is what went wrong." So Delph didn't have the other side of it, which is what you said a minute ago. Delph had too many mistakes to be in contention to be a leader, because he wouldn't have had the respect in that regard. He wasn't as technically good as the rest of the players, but he had the mouth side of it. But it's looking like he's gone now. So I hate the idea at City, for me, of there being a completely fucking mute changing room, where everyone's got headphones on. Sort of like when you imagine United's dressing room, you imagine it to be a fucking, everyone's got headphones on, everyone's got the face in their iPhones, and everyone's ignoring each other, right? Until they have to go out and play 90 minutes.
All dancing, aren't they? Dabbing and dancing and all that.
Yeah, taking selfies and all that shit. That's the last thing that I would want from from a Manchester City changing room. So I think Maguire, it's just
I don't think Pep would let that happen, though. Pep would want more from everybody now that all these leaders are gone. I know you still need the players on the pitch to come together when the coach is on the sidelines, but at half time, obviously the players do talk, but
yeah,
it's a good point that, actually, Willie, because I think Pep, having been a captain at Barcelona,
exactly,
he knows the routine. It's almost
yeah,
he's a captain himself, isn't he? When he goes into that dressing room, it's like he G's them up as well. You've seen it on the documentary. He's like getting the music playing. He said, "Turn it up louder, get it all going." Within reason, obviously.
Who does Pep pick as his captain then, other than Kevin? I think Kevin De Bruyne. You think Kevin De Bruyne? Is it just going to be Kevin De Bruyne?
The other guy is the man we mentioned earlier, Laporte. Is Laporte ready to be the captain?
No.
You don't think so?
I think he speaks fluent English. I think he's a good player. But here's the other consideration when you're saying Laporte. I'd be bang on 100% with you. But who the fuck is the starting back four? Because I seem to remember 2 seasons ago against Liverpool when we beat him 5-0, he had Mendy, Otamendi, Stones, and in the middle of that he had Danilo and Walker, and he was trying to play like a back three with 2 fucking flying wing halves. When Mendy's fit, he wants a back four, and then he decided, if you remember, for a couple of games he wanted a back three. But if you look at the current crop of centre halves, we've got Otamendi, Laporte, Stones, and maybe Maguire if Maguire's in there. So if Maguire's in there, does he play Maguire and Stones? Does he play Maguire and Laporte? Does he play Maguire Otamendi? Does he play Stones Laporte? Is Laporte, if we sign Maguire, going to be a fucking nailed-on name on that team sheet? I really don't know if he is or not.
I think he is because he's left-sided. So that's having that left foot on. If you play him on the left side of the pair. So I mean, I think Maguire's right-footed. Might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he's right-footed. So if Maguire was to come in, he was playing as a pair, keep Laporte on the left, and obviously the distribution that Laporte has as well is a massive part of our game, isn't it?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not slating Laporte in any way, shape, or form. What I'm trying to work out is what's his starting 11 for those games, and so from what you've just said, then there realistically is John Stones who drops out.
Yeah, definitely.
So what happens with John Stones then? Because as we discussed 5 minutes ago, John Stones is not a bit part player. He has to play everything, else he's got no fucking form at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I mean, the balance of that is John Stones has just got to knuckle down, and when he does get a chance, he's just got to prove that he deserves a start. And if he can't do it, if he can't come in and perform, then he's probably playing at the wrong level.
Yeah,
that's the honest view.
Which is
my honest view anyway. Even though I love him, the best game I ever saw John Stones play was Everton came to the Etihad a few years ago, and they played John Stones at right back.
Yeah,
and that's the best I've ever seen him play. And I don't think we've ever tried him at right back. And I think we could save some money there rather than going out and buying Cancelo and getting the right.
I've not mentioned Cancelo because I don't even see it as I don't even see it as a thing. I really don't.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. To be honest. Paper talking it, I reckon.
Yeah.
The Cancelo. You know what Juve are like as well. The Juve have the little army of agents and media trying to up the price, so they're mentioning City.
Yeah,
like they always do. Yeah.
What do you say, Willie? Who's in that starting back four if we do play a back four?
It's a tough one because obviously we're going to go for all the trophies as well, so there's going to be some rotation depending on what competition we're playing in. And then at that point, I guess it's whoever is going to fit the style of play that we're going to be playing against. Because obviously, if you're playing teams that are going to sit back with 10 men behind the ball, you're not going to need let's say a Maguire like defending. The only time teams are just going to pump high balls up and then chase after it. I don't know. It's a tough one.
I'm gonna propose this to you, right? And this is gonna go against everything that I've ever said. The Premier League for me is the competition I always want to win the most. I'll make that clear. But I think the 4 competitions that we'll be aiming to win, let's forget about the Charity Shield for a minute. I think the Premier League is the easiest for us to win again. And the reason for that is because it's 38 games. And it's 38 games where we can our destiny is in our own hands. The rest of them are knockout competitions. So my thought was about the conundrum with regards to Maguire, Laporte and Stones was that he would probably play the weaker of the centre-half pairings in the Premier League consistently, which would mean probably Stones and Maguire on the left-hand side like he does for England. Does that make sense? So then that Stones is allowed to keep up that continuity and the consistency, and then Laporte, to me, I think, can just fucking do 5 minutes warm-up and just fucking drop him into any game and he's a legend. I don't think that he needs the same run of games as Stones does. So I think that we could possibly see Laporte feature in the bigger games, like the derbies or the Liverpool or the Chelsea or the Arsenal, whatever. But I think for your bread and butter Premier League games, I think we would see Stones and Maguire. That's just my personal opinion.
I think Laporte is Pep's main man, though. I really do. I think the fact that he went in for him a couple of years ago and then, it didn't come through because I think Laporte was injured, and then he went back in again for him and signed him for a record transfer. I actually think Pep rates Laporte higher than we realise, and I think he probably will consider him as the captain. I have a feeling he might make him the captain.
I don't doubt how highly Pep rates him, and I rate him as well. What I'm saying is, for the bread and butter games, I think Laporte would be more important to us in the Champions League knockout than he would be in the Premier League. I think I do genuinely believe that we can have the Premier League sewn up, because it's just 38 games. We lose a game early on, we don't fuck up the rest of the season. He can change and adapt from there. He can change his strategies. He can fucking bring Laporte in. But I think for the Premier League games, I just think it'd be easier to keep everybody happy and to keep Stone's consistency if it's the other player that's rotated. You know what I mean?
At the end of the Centurion season, I would have fully agreed with you there, Rob, completely. But I think Liverpool have moved the goalposts because they were right up our asses last year, 1 point behind. I don't think we can assume that we're just going to stroll through the games and not pick the best 11 every match. I think we've got to have Laporte out there.
I don't think that anyone's going to have a 98, 96, 97, 98 or 100-point season again. I totally get what you're saying. I just don't. I think if Liverpool were going to do it, let's remember the fucking elephant in the room of VAR is coming in next season. That's 20 points that Liverpool lose straight away.
I think the opposite. I think really? VAR. I think VAR. I've watched VAR here in the MLS, and the big team here at Toronto, they're like the big sort of. They win it most years, and they're up there. And I've watched it. The referees run over to the VAR machine. They take a look, and it always goes in the big team's favour every time. So I still don't trust. I mean, and you saw it in the Champions League final. They got a penalty. I mean, and that was a bit iffy, wasn't it? That penalty. I just think they're going to get decisions, and I think they were just going to get the glory of watching a replay of us being shafted now. Whereas last year, we didn't get a replay of it. We just now get to see a nice rerun of City being completely skanked.
We didn't get that in the Etihad against Tottenham. We didn't get any fucking replays.
I was going to say, are they going to do that next year with beaming back what the ref actually sees on the big screens? Because I know a lot of clubs don't show controversial moments on the big screens.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will show a replay. No, I think they don't do it, do they? Because it cause a riot.
Let's take our tinfoil hats off for a second. I'm totally on board with you both about the fact that VAR probably won't fucking make our season any different with regards to fortuitous decisions, or Ashley Young getting banned for fucking trying to snap Aguero's leg, or Mo Salah fucking doing the 100 metres dive, and getting dodgy penalties and the 4 or 5 offside goals that they got last season. But let's say that it is to the fucking letter. Let's say that it works exactly as intended and they don't get the point. I really think I'm just going to throw me out there and say that whoever wins the league next season, it will be in the mid-80s. It won't be in the 90s again.
I'm not so sure. I think 2 teams now have really emerged. I think they're so far ahead that they're going to win pretty much every game they play.
Yeah, I don't think other teams in the Premiership are going to catch up a lot over one summer.
I think you're in the 90s mentality a little bit. I'm not trying to offend you, but when Arsenal and United used to just fucking walk it, and it was fucking the most boring football ever, and they still never got anywhere near 98 points. It was their league, and it was their league to win, and it was the same thing where it was 2 breakaway teams. But I just think United are going to be nowhere fucking near it for about 5 seasons, 10 seasons if we're lucky. Chelsea aren't going to be anywhere near it for 2 seasons or a season at least under
long 5, 6 years. Yeah, they've banned for signing players.
Arsenal won't spend any money, so maybe I'm premature. Maybe I am a season early, and maybe it will be another 90-odd point season between City and Liverpool. But there's going to be a season, and I still think it's going to be next season. Maybe the season after, where it's going to drop. It is going to be a drop to mid-80s on the winner.
I don't think United will be as bad as everyone expects them to be. I think they've got one thing they need to do, and it's get rid of Pogba. If they get rid of Pogba, that whole... I know, but if they get rid of him, then they're back in action, aren't they? But hopefully that doesn't happen. I want him to stay there for the next 10 years if he can, because yeah, I'm loving all these dabbing videos while we cruise ahead.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, fucking hell. Look, long may he fucking stay at United, seriously, and Sanchez and all the other fucking overplayed wankers. But I don't think that Sky will last forever if City and Liverpool are so dominant. Maybe if Liverpool were dominant, maybe if it was Liverpool winning the league, then it'd still, something's gonna happen next season or the season after that's really gonna fuck us up. And it won't because of the football we play. It'll be because of the rules. It'll be because of VAR. It'll be because of fucking doping. There'll be some fucking bullshit that they'll figure out to punish us for, and deduct us points or fucking, let penalties go, unchecked. Let fucking goals be disallowed. There's gonna be something going on that's really gonna fucking keep us in check, whether it be next season or the season later, because there's no way on earth that they'll allow us to just continue doing this for the next.
Isn't it sad though that we have to even think like that? Well, it's just so sad because we went through the 90s, watching United win every year. Do you remember like the first time they won it with that Steve Bruce bleeding header in the last minute?
Yeah.
And it was like the 98th minute.
Huh?
Okay, I think it was against Sheffield Wednesday or something like that. And I'm like, they were adding time on for them. Then it's been such a push to get them to the top, and no one actually said anything when they were winning it every week, winning every game, winning every year. No one batted an eyelid, but now City are doing it. It's just like,
yeah, but Sky sells subscriptions in Torquay and fucking London and Swindon and all these places, and then all the Sky partners in Malaysia and Canada and America and wherever.
Well, I was reading, Rob, the other day that, if you go through your Sky channels on your Sky box, you've got MUTV and obviously Liverpool TV are sat there, aren't they, just next to Sky Sports?
Yeah.
And apparently the subscription, Sky get a big chunk of that subscription. When you subscribe to MUTV, they get a big chunk of the subscription. So no wonder they want to promote them. It's product placement. They've got them sat there on the channels.
So they've been sweet for all them years on all that money. And if City keep winning the fucking league, they're not going to make the money they make when United win the league. They just don't. Yeah. So they're going to do something to change it because Sky are so fucking powerful in football. It's ridiculous. Like you're saying about MUFC TV and Liverpool TV. I mean, even half the programmes on Sky when there's not a football match going on, it's fucking Gary Neville sat on a sofa with one of his fucking bum boys from the 90s talking about how great football was when they were winning it. You know what I mean? Let's have a 2-hour programme about how it was great when we used to play football. And they fucking love it. They lap it all up. And it sells subscriptions. You're never going to sell a subscription of Sergio Aguero sitting there and going, oh, wasn't it great when we took the piss out of United and won 6-1? The amount of people that are fucking unsubscribed. So they're going to do something in the next couple of seasons, I promise you.
I think so. I mean, I also think that the flip side of that coin, if we look at it from a sort of more positive point of view, because I know we do, like you say, wear our tinfoil hats a bit. But if you look at it on the flip side, City are growing. We've got the best guys in charge. If we can get our name out there like we're doing and grow our fan base, then, that could change as well. And it's going to take 20 years of success, constant success, to build our name worldwide. And it's happening now. I mean, over here in Canada, I go into the football or the sports shops and there's City shirts everywhere. City shirts all over the place. And I remember traveling over to the States and stuff years ago, and I never saw any of that. Yeah. I never saw, yes, if you said to someone Manchester City, they just look at you like you were crazy. And now everybody knows who City are. So it is starting.
I agree, it's starting, but will it be allowed to continue? Now, we'll get on in a minute. I want to find out about you two guys' City histories. But I'll give you a little anecdote. When I lived in the States, I worked for Live Nation, so I was outside all the time building stages and stuff like that for concerts. Now, I always used to wear City shirts. Like I had my First Advice City shirts and my Thomas Cook City shirts, and I had like the old IDOS City shirts and stuff like that. Nobody had ever fucking heard of City. You are quite right. I lived in New England and nobody ever heard of fucking City. The closest they ever got, I had a red and black City. Remember that red and black First Advice top we had? And someone came up to me and said, oh, is that an AC Milan shirt? That was the closest they ever got to it being recognised as a football shirt. But when I left America, I must have had like 15 City shirts, and I just handed them all to my mates that I'd made friends with over the time. and they still wear them shirts now, and they wear them to City Supporters Club meetings in places like Boston and there's Providence in Rhode Island where they've got City Supporters Clubs now, something that didn't exist 10 years ago. So you are totally right that it is an emerging thing, and they send me photographs of them wearing these fucking dirt old City shirts, you know, that I gave them 10, 15 years ago, with all their new mates that are all wearing the fucking shiny brand new, I guess, Puma shirts now. So yeah, you are right, it is growing. But one thing that I will say, when I did live over there, I had this thing called Cox Cable, and it was $1 a month to get Premier League matches. And it wasn't just like what, you know, Sky Sports, they have Super Sunday where they show.
I thought you were going to say something else then, Rob. Cox Cable, $1 a month. I was wondering where this one was going.
It was $1 a month, and it wasn't just like the game of the day. It was every Premier League game. You could watch, you know, you could go on the red button thing and watch whatever Premier League game you wanted for $1 a month. Now it's way more money than that now that the Premier League's actually fucking something over there. But back then it was $1 a month, and I could watch whatever fucking match I wanted for $1 a month.
I get it for free here on my normal telly. Well, I'll say free. You have to get, you know, like your Freeview box thing. You pay for that a little bit, but it's not much. It's like 30 quid or something. And then I get all the Premier League games for free. I've got all the sports channels he just sort of threw in the package, and I was loving it. But this year they're stopping it, and some other provider called DAZN are taking over. So I've got to pay them another $20 a month for it. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's just more accessible. You can just get up in the morning, put the telly on, it's there.
Yeah, well, I remember one of the games that I watched was around Christmas time. It was against Hull. It was that one where Phil Brown brought him out all on the pitch. Do you remember that one? I think we won it like 5-1. Yeah. And I remember watching it. It must have been Boxing Day or something. It was like either a day before Christmas or after Christmas. Someone will correct me on that one, but
yeah, it was. Yeah, I was there. I remember that. Yeah,
it was. It was on at like 7:30 in the morning or something like that. Just on my telly in America. It was wicked, and the people I was watching it with had no fucking clue. But you know, I don't know. Football's it's still a hard nut to crack in America. I still think. I know football's massive over there, but
yeah, it's all women here. I mean, I play football in the park every Wednesday night, just nearby, and it's almost like an unwritten rule that the women have to play. So my wife plays football. You know, we go in the park, we have a kick about, and half the team's women. And if there's no women there, it's like it's just weird. Like no one will want to play because there's no women turned up. And you'll see like messenger groups set up, and are there any women available? You know, and it's like it's just weird because back home, you know, you just don't see any women playing, do you? Really?
Well, perhaps that's a good thing. I mean, like maybe if Manchester City women take off big time in America, maybe that's a real avenue into getting into those markets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, so let's get into. We'll do a little bit of a thing now. So, who wants to start?
You go, Willie.
There you go.
So, William, you're a Manchester. Well, sorry, you live in Paisley. You're a Glasgow Rangers season ticket holder.
Yes, I am.
But for some reason, you're a sadomasochist, and you also love Manchester City.
Yes. Well, everybody's got half a second team nowadays. Most people I know have second teams, but yeah, like you say, Rangers is my first love. But for me, watching Manchester City is a joy, especially with our troubled last few years. It's not so much. I would find it offensive if somebody called me a glory hunter. Put it that way, because I wouldn't say I'm a glory hunter in terms of now. Because I think first time I really felt something watching a Manchester City game was the Aguero game when we won it in the 93rd minute. Because what was it, 15 minutes to go and all looked lost, and I just thought, are they actually going to do this? And I just really wanted them to win the league that year, just because I hated United as well, part reason. And yeah, ever since then it's just like watching City and between watching Rangers is just totally different. Like obviously, Rangers is my first team, so I'm gonna back them no matter how good or badly they play. But just coming back and then putting on the City highlights or whatever, it's just like, wow, this is how football should be played. And yeah.
Well, I mean, you've had your fair share of glory over the years being a Rangers fan.
Exactly. So that's why I would find it offensive if somebody called me a glory hunter because, yeah, we've won 54 league titles, numerous League Cups, Scottish Cups, blah blah blah. So it's not for me. It's not really the glory of following City. It's more kind of the enjoyment of watching the football. I know City back in the day were really bad, but that's why I find that a lot of similarities between like when City were down in Division One, Division Two, struggling a bit. They still had the fan base and the passion behind the team, and that's what we had over the last 6 years trying to get back to the top. And I just find it a kind of almost like a brotherhood kind of way, like where we've both been down and then got back up to the top again. Well, hopefully we'll get back up to the top again at Rangers, but I just like the whole kind of philosophy around it.
But you speak to any Manchester City fan that's been around the block for more than a decade. Not that there's anything wrong if you've only been supporting City for a decade, but I remember in the mid-90s when they redeveloped the kickbacks. Kiam, you'll probably remember this too. But there was pictures. There was some architect that came up with these pictures that sort of turned Main Road into this sort of fucking bowl. It was like a bowl, and it was going to be like this fucking wow. This is a real, you know. Do you remember when they redeveloped the kickbacks and then they were like, right, we're going to do this to the North Stand next, we're going to do this to the Platt Lane next, and it looked like it was a fucking you could hold a World Cup final there, you know.
That would have looked great in the middle of Moss Side.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, for all of these grandiose plans that Manchester City always had, and these players that we were signing, I mean, I remember like I first went to City in the 80s, but you're not, as a young lad, you're not really conscious of how football is played and what football is about until you turn about 10, 11, 12 years old when you really start to recognise who's good, who's bad. You know, before that age, you're sort of just cheering them because it's your team and you're told to cheer them on. But you start feeling things when you get to like 10, 11, 12, whatever. So when I was like a teenager in the mid-90s, seeing players like Rosler and Kincladze and even like Paul Walsh and stuff like that, and just playing this football, and you're like, yeah, this is my team. And then they redeveloped the Kippax. I remember that I was there at the Kippax. Like I was in the Kippax a couple of times, but I was a North Stand lad. And it was the Kippax last stand in '94, and the t-shirts and people were bringing bananas to matches, and it was all sort of, and it was a fucking mad football club. And then we just went through the biggest fucking decline ever, and we were absolute wank, total wank. But the fan base was still top notch. We were building new stands. They built the Gene Kelly stand. They built this little extension between the Kippax and the Platt Lane. They built all these new things, and it was like, why the fuck are we getting 30,000 people, 33,000 people on occasion to watch this fucking diabolical football? And everyone, there was moaners. There was always fucking moaners at City, but everyone had this attitude about them and this swagger about them, like.
You know what, Robin? In your heart, sorry to interrupt, but in your heart of hearts, though, did you not know that City were a big club? Something was going to happen in the future. I always had that feeling. I always thought something was going to happen.
I tell you what, I knew City were a big club because I'm half Scottish. I mean, I was born in Scotland and moved to Manchester when I was 5. But my English side of the family had been going to City. Like my granddad went to City in the 30s, and then he was in the army for the Second World War. But he went to City in the 30s when they were a big club. He went to City in the 50s when they were a big club, 60s when they were a big club, 70s when they were a big club. And my uncles and aunties were going in the 60s and 70s when they were a big club. So I knew that Manchester City were a big club with all this history. But one thing I tell you, do you remember that shop outside Main Road? It was like the club shop, but it was a fucking dive.
Next to the social club.
Next to the social club. Yeah. And they used to sell, I don't even think they were legit videos. I think they were bootleg videos. That I think it was either Andy Buckley or Ian Cheeseman used to do the voiceover for these videos. Do you remember them?
I do with one of them had the Roger Palmer. Oldham, remember it? I remember that video. Roger Palmer. Yeah.
And they had like season highlights, and then they also had these like old videos of I think there was one that I had that was it was Bell, Lee, and Summerby sat in deck chairs in someone's fucking garden talking about how great City used to be. And I used to watch them as a kid religiously, like, wow, City with this. And I was going obviously to Main Road all the way and watching City and watching absolute fucking wankers. We got relegated. But these videos were like, we had.
You just brought back some memories then, because I think I had the very same videos, Rob, to be honest. Yeah, I think I did.
So you were watching You were watching. I mean, there was a video that I had as well, which was the 10-1 against Huddersfield in '87, and then there was I was at the 5-1 against United, but I was 5 years old, so I could have fucking just been reading a comic book. You know what I mean? Didn't really need much. But so there was these videos, and you were just reliving the glory on these, dodgy VHS tapes. I think some of them might have even been Betamax. I don't know, but
no, I remember I had those videos because I used to follow Italian football as well, and I had the Italian 90 and Ruud Gullit and all that. And I remember all my City videos and my Italian, not Italian, well, it's Italian 90, wasn't it? That kind of time.
Yeah. So I knew City were a massive club, but it was all just on dodgy VHS that I knew they were a massive club. I wasn't seeing it for myself, you know what I mean? And you weren't seeing it for yourself either. Then obviously we had the back-to-back relegations, and that was when I was old enough then to get my own season ticket and go to away games, and I just fucking loved it. I'd never turn. I mean, I've seen everything that City have won in the last decade. Everything. I've been home and away. But still, some of those dodgy, shitty away days back then still mean more. I don't know why. Maybe I'm internally broken. I really can't tell you why. But just... And I tried explaining this in the last podcast that I had with them two young lads, Jay and Matt. I don't know if you heard much of it. But they were telling me about what it was like to be a young City fan now. And their general takeaway from what it's like to be a young City fan now is people are turning to them and going, have you earned the right to be at this away game? Have you earned the right to be here? Have you earned the right like we have to be celebrating? Now, when I was a younger lad, it was like, come here, son, you're one of us now. You're watching this bollocks, so you must be a real City fan. Whereas they're getting the other end of the stick now. I'd never give them that. But for me, when I was going to those away games in the late 90s, I could turn in any direction and it was a fucking hardcore City fan because they were just as stupid as me to be still watching this fucking wank football and paying fortunes and wondering where all this money was going in our club and all the rest of it. And what was it? We had 54 players, I think, at one point. You had 54 titles at Glasgow Rangers, Willie. We had 54 players in our
squad. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen that in a few old programs. So the list is just massive.
Yeah. So,
it was a brotherhood, Rob, when you went away. Like, you all looked out for each other back in them days. It was like, obviously there was a lot more trouble and stuff, wasn't there, going on?
Yes.
But you just looked out for each other, and it was like, getting here, lad. I remember being a kid and going to I didn't go many away games as a kid, but when I did, the older guys look after you. Simple as that. And if it went off, if it all kicked off, you were there for each other.
But I mean,
which it did a few times.
Of course it did. But that was different. It's still hard to convey how different it was then going away with the older boys than it is going away now. Because I'm considered one of the older boys now because I'm in late 30s. But and these young lads that are 19, 20 years old, and I try and stay clear of all the social media stuff with City, like that Blue Moon Forum. I know you're on there, but some of the headlines on there are like, why is it that 19-year-olds have to snort cocaine and start fights for football? But then when I go to the football, I never see 19-year-olds starting fights for football. I always see mid-50s guys starting fights for football. You know what I mean? So there's no parity between what they're saying on the forums and all this rabble-rousing and then what I'm seeing in reality of the matches. So it's really weird.
I think football's just cleaned its act up, though, as well, hasn't it? Like the modern stadiums, the experience is just completely different. I think it's just not the same sort of...
Well, these 19-year-olds weren't around in the 70s and 80s when football really was the Wild West. You know what I mean? They can't be responsible for that. So, anyway,
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely.
So back to you, Willie, about supporting City. So we've just both give you a little bit of history there about City and what it was like when we were wank and stuff like that. So what you were saying about 2012 when it was 15 minutes from time and you thought we'd fucked it up. And trust me, every single City fan that was at that game, we thought we'd fucked it up as well. Yeah. But at the time, the only thing that we possibly thought was, well, it's typical City. Of course, we're going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a
1%. I don't know why. I just thought something was going to happen that day, and then Joey Barton got sent off, and then I thought, okay, this is a good chance. And then,
because we got worse after Joey Barton got sent off. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, no, hold on. Yeah, they scored, didn't they?
Jolien Lescott did his best fucking backward swan diving header to try and fucking assist Cisse or something.
Yeah, he did. And then he scored. And then it was just all what was downhill. Definitely like, oh, this is never going to happen. And then I don't know why. I just felt watching that game. that City was going to be my second team. And then over the last couple of years, I've managed to get down for a few trips. Been to a few Champions League games. I know it's not the most glamorous games to go to.
Empty stadiums, yeah. I was with you at the Feyenoord game when the stadium was fucking empty.
The stadium was empty, yeah, but I think I don't know. I just love going to football, and then being there and watching. Well, I was at the Shakhtar game last year, 7 goals. I know Shakhtar are not really a great team, but it was just clinical way of playing football, and just watching it and being there live is just a joyful experience. Like I just love watching football live in the flesh, and the whole kind of atmosphere around it all. And I know that you sit next to the away fans, so I know the Shakhtar game there was no away fans, but the Feyenoord game was pretty mental.
Yeah.
That a bus change getting chucked at us.
Listen, you're saying, well, I got my bus fare home, didn't I? For a good
That's true. We did get the bus fare home.
But one of the things, I mean, you say that we beat Shakhtar there by 7 goals or whatever it was, but
Yeah,
I want you to know one thing. After, and Kiam, you can relate to this as well. After the 10 goals at home with Stuart Pearce, I celebrate every Manchester City goal as if we've won the fucking Champions League, because we've seen City not be able to score at home. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, sitting there week in, week out, and just like I used to fall asleep, just like literally fall asleep in my seat. I was like, we're not going to score, are we? Used to say to my brother, it's not going to happen. Never did. I remember we used to lose like 3-0 to Blackburn at home.
Yeah,
it's just crazy.
Do you remember that there was a game years and years ago where there were 2 games that I want to talk about actually. There was one game against Chelsea. I think Chelsea were going for an invincible season, but I think we beat them 1-0 at Stamford Bridge or something like that with an Anelka penalty. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. Very vaguely.
And that was like, a shitty little City with a team that fucking upset Chelsea, which was because I think that was Mourinho's, was it first or second season when he was fucking king of the world?
Yeah.
And shitty little City just with a crappy Anelka penalty beat them, which was hilarious.
Yeah, we had a habit of doing that to Chelsea, didn't we? Like,
yeah.
Did Tevez as well, yeah.
But then I also remember there was a game where Nicholas Anelka played for Bolton against us, and I think they beat us. And there's just all sorts of shitty games that I've been to as a City fan, and just. But one thing that has always been true, and I don't know whether it's going to be true into the future, the songs that were invented on the terraces in the 90s and in the early 2000s, the We're Not Really Is, and even when we got the new owners where City's going down with $1 billion in the bank and all that, the creativity of the people who come up with the songs at City is just second to none, in my opinion.
Have you heard the new one for Rodri?
Go on, what's that?
And I'm not going to break into song, but it's basically to the tune of Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's quality. Honestly, it's quality. I've not obviously heard anyone singing it yet, but I've seen the words for it on Twitter. So hopefully that takes off next year. But
what is it about City fans that we just have that in us? Is it the years of pain that have just created this fucking poetic license where we just...
Yeah, we could just laugh at ourselves. We know how to laugh at ourselves. That's what it is.
So that's what I'm curious just about. I mean, Willie, I still call you a newer fan, and I don't mean that in an offensive way, but...
Oh, I would agree.
I'm
a new fan.
I would agree
I'm a new fan, and I've not, as you say, been through the hard times and watching shit games where we're struggling to score a goal just to get 3 points in Division 1 or whatever. I get that, yes, but yeah, I would definitely class myself as a newer fan, but I would find it offensive if somebody called me a glory hunter, if you see what I mean.
You've had the same sort of tale with Rangers in the last 8 years, haven't
you?
Yes,
we've had to go to all sorts of backward arse stadiums, but it's just
and watching neighbours win everything at the same time.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I like watching City and watching them win. Yes, but that's definitely not glory hunting. I know there's a lot of City fans who've jumped on the bandwagon and all that, and I know that in terms of growing the whole brand, if you like, as we were talking about earlier, and breaking into America and short distribution sales in Asia and all that, obviously you're going to have some sort of measure of success for that to happen, and that can only start from now, really.
Well, we were never going to grow on the fucking shambles, were we? Beyond that 34,000.
That's true, but you're always going to have that loyal fan base at home, and then
What, who come dressed as empty seats every week?
Well, apparently they get dressed as empty seats and you just can't be bothered turning up, which is a bit of a shame, really, because it's kind of it's not ludicrous in terms of cost to go and watch a football game.
I'm always curious.
I mean,
I'm always
like,
curious.
it's expensive up here, and you're going to watch shit football, but when you're down and watching an English Premiership game, and it's a lot cheaper than a Scottish Premier League game, the football is 10 times more better.
I think it's really affordable now. If you get on a direct debit, you can do it. You know, your season ticket direct debit. What is it like? I don't know, 40 quid a month, 50 quid a month. For when you work that out, that's just a few pints in it a month.
Well, three seasons ago, I switched my season ticket, which was £1,000, to one of the 300 quid season tickets. You can argue that I'm in a slightly worse seat with a slightly worse view, but I'm right next to the away fans when it's not kids for a fiver. And it also means that I can be at Bellend and spend £6,500 on going away, home and away all last season. But I'm not going to be doing that every season, you know what I mean? Because it just gets ridiculous. But
are you in 111, Rob, or are you in the other near the goal on the side of the goal?
No, I'm in the gods, me. I'm in the south stand 314, me, no.
Oh, so you're up the top. Yeah.
I used to be in 114. I've been in 114. I've been in the padded seats in the middle. I've been in the Colin Bell. I've been all over. When we first moved to the Etihad, it was a big move to make the there was a big move to make the east stand the what was the Kipax. So they tried relocating people from the Kipax into that east stand, if you remember. And then I went behind the goal in south stand because that was going to be considered to be the new north stand, if that makes sense. So that's where I went for like the first 3 or 4 seasons. But then I went to America. So
I was sat in your seats then pretty much in the same block as you at Christmas when I come home. For the Crystal Palace game when they beat us. Came back for that. South
stand 314.
Yeah, South stand. I was in like 3-1-6 or 3. It's one of them 3. Yeah, it was up on the third tier.
Well, I don't know if your eyes ever went right, but we're always stood up because we always get bollocked by Showsec. But there's about 40 or 50 of us that just stand up, so they just can't tell us to sit down anymore.
I was about 10 rows from the back, and came back to watch us get beat by Crystal. But I literally got off a plane. I've been travelling for 17 hours. And I thought, I'm not going to make the game. So I never got myself a ticket. So I'm ringing around all my mates. Darted from the airport, got there just before kickoff. And then we got levered back. Well, we didn't get levered, but that guy smashed the volley and didn't he, Townsend?
Yeah.
And we lost, so, yeah.
That's why you're a City fan. It's your fault.
Yeah, that's what all my mates were saying. They were like, Jesus Christ, can you get back to Canada?
We were smashing it before then.
Yeah. Exactly. I was like, don't worry, we'll still win the league. And we did.
So, Kiam, you live in Canada?
I do indeed. Vancouver, British Columbia.
And you're a City fan. Now, I'm guessing by the accent you weren't born in Canada. So you've moved to Canada at some point in your life. And you are still a Manchester City fan. What's it like trying to be a City fan living all the way over there?
Do you know what? It's a different experience, I suppose. I mean, I miss the match day experience. I miss, meeting up with the lads, going for a few beers, all that kind of thing. But the experience here is it's pretty good. The only thing I find awkward is that the games are early in the morning, so I can't go out. I can't really go. Well, I can, but I don't want to go to the pub at 7 o'clock in the morning because my missus will have me in the doghouse. So I don't really do that. So the experience really is just getting up and watching it on telly. So I feel like a United fan now. I'm just like, I got my armchair. No, I mean, yeah. So just get up in the morning. The games are on nice and early. And what I like about having the games on so early is that I've got the rest of the day sort of to myself. So everything's done and dusted by like 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock. And then I can go out and do what I want to do for the rest of the day. So back home, it sort of takes up your whole Saturday, doesn't it? So, so, I do like that element of it, but I just miss the, and to be honest, I went to, I've been going City for ages. So the group of lads that you get to know and all your mates and stuff, you get a bit of a click with them, don't you? And, there's some really good people that I used to go to the games with, and I don't obviously see them anymore. So I'm a bit gutted about that, but that's what happens. That's life.
What's access to City like then in Canada? Straightforward getting on your telly and stuff like that.
Yeah, so like I say, it's just on the regular TV over here. So we have so you got obviously Sky Sports over there. We have something called Sports Network and TSN, which is Total Sports Network, and they just have the games on here. So you can guarantee City are always on. We're one of the main. It's always us, Liverpool, United, like the main sort of teams. They're always on.
See,
And
as I was alluding to before, I always find it fascinating that because every game in the Premier League is broadcast somewhere in the world, yet because Sky Sports have got the monopoly in this country, they pick and choose like the 3 games of the weekend or whatever. Even though technically all games are broadcast. I mean, I'm sure you've come across a dodgy stream in your time.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the world, a City game is being broadcast, regardless of whether Sky Sports say so or not. What about things like supporters clubs or anything like that? Have you ventured out and tried to find some fellow Blues or expats or just English English expat football fans in general? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm not big for sort of going to the supporters club just because of the time. Like if I go out to a supporters club and I go to a pub, I'm pretty old school. I want to get absolutely levered. You know what I mean? I want to get in the pub, make a night of it, do the full thing.
Way.
And at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's like you can't really do that. So there's a supporters club down the road from me. It's called Granville Street, one of the main streets in Vancouver downtown. And there's a pub called the Cinema Pub. So if any City fans are going out, that's the place you want to go. And there's a great supporters club in there. There's City scarves all over the walls and pictures and everything. So I go in there every now and then. If the games are like Champions League games and I can slip out from work, I'll bob in and watch a game.
It's not named after Danny Granville, is it? Because that'd be a bit of an obscure reference.
Danny Granville, jeez, that's memory lane. Now that shows you how the club's progressed, doesn't it? Danny Granville
and Mark Kennedy, they were fucking tearing down that left-hand side. Anyway,
I was buzzing when we. I was just going to say I was buzzing when we signed then, though. To be fair, I was celebrating.
So, what about the natives? Do they take to football? Have you made any Canadian friends and you've passed on a shirt like I did with my American pals? Or
soccer, Rob, they call it, don't they? Soccer. I must admit, I hate the fact they call it soccer more.
Do you give them a slap when they say that? Or
do you know what? I call it soccer now.
Oh,
it's
Jesus.
ridiculous. Yeah, I work. I know. I work with a couple of lads from Brazil, and I went up to him probably about 6 months ago, and I was chatting, and I was like, "Yeah, so are you guys watching the soccer?" And they looked at me because obviously they call it football still, and they looked at me with this just look of disgust, and I realised what I'd done, and yeah, I try and remember the word football, but just everybody refers to it as soccer, so you're just constantly saying it. You know what I mean? You have to fit in, don't you? Go with the locals.
Oh, I always rebel. What about are you like me? Are you a knobhead when you're abroad? Do you wear your City shirts to the beach and stuff like that, and out clubbing and stuff? Or
do you know what? I'm a bit like Andy from Man City Fan TV. I'm not really a kit buyer. I know Andy don't really buy the kits, but I think the last one I had was I've just bought one in the last week, to be honest. So I'm sort of telling a bit of a lie because I've got back to me kits. But the last one I had was the black and red one. Not the first. I think it was the first advice one actually that you mentioned earlier. I think that's the last kit I actually bought, and then the one before that was the Purple Brother kit.
Was it the white pinstripes or the yellow pinstripe Purple Brother one you had?
It was the purple kit with like the triangular shapes.
Right, yeah, got you.
The away kit. Yeah.
I don't really do football shirts either, but I don't know if you remember for years and years and years and years, the City away kit, and then occasionally when we got a little bit, I think was it TNS when we played when we first got into Europe in the Fair Play Award or whatever it is in 2004 or something.
Yeah,
we got a third kit at that point. But before then, the away kit for City, they always used to do limited runs, and they were always like 3,000 limited runs. I don't know if you remember, but it went on for years and years and years. So there was only ever a certain amount of away kits made. Obviously, this is before the Umbro and the Nike. And I'm talking like, Kappa, Lecoq Sportif and all that shit. So I always used to buy the City. I never bought City home shirts, never ever. I always bought the City away shirts.
You know what? Well, Rob, I didn't like that badge that they changed to. That with the 3 stars and all that.
Shit. It was the shittest badge.
wasn't a fan of it. As soon as he turned to that was me done. I was
Do
like,
you know what happened in night? I think I was 14 or 15 in '98, and Willie's seen it on my leg. But when we switched over from that badge to then the one with the eagle and the 3 stars and all that, it looked a bit fucking Germanic to me. But I went into Rambo's tattoo parlor in Manchester as a 14-year-old and got what then was the old badge tattooed on my leg, you know, the circle badge before that one. Now, obviously, we've reverted to that circle badge, but obviously it's changed, hasn't it? So I got that on my leg, and it's still proudly sat there on my leg. But yeah, I never fucking liked that.
Yeah, I just didn't like the 3 stars, you know, because everyone would be like, "Oh, you don't won the Champions League. Why have you got stars on your badge?" And it just became like something to have a dig at us for. And
well, it was the sponsor as well. If you remember, we had IDOS, 11 idiots dreaming of success. You know, there was all sorts of fucking ridicule going on. But
yeah. I mean, to be honest, everything was ridicule, wasn't it, back then? I suppose so. It didn't really matter. But but recently I've just bought the. Do you remember the black kit from 2 years ago?
Yeah,
the black away strip. I just bought it like.
Is that the one with the gold accents on it? It had like gold lettering.
No, it's got the blue. Not that one. It's literally from 2017-18 season, so it's just the recent one. It's got the blue sort of strip. It's like a grey colour, actually.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a greyish sort of colour. I bought that one, but I bought it in a size too small. But I was being a bit optimistic, thinking I was going to fit into it. So I've got a bit of running to do and shed a few pounds because obviously the kits are a bit tighter, aren't they, these days? So
well, I was shitting it when we went to Puma because I used to rock Puma all the time when I was a kid. But I was a lot skinnier as a kid. But I know that Puma are notorious for liking the fucking skin tight wear, aren't they? So I was shitting it when we went to Puma. But I haven't tried the new shirt yet.
I'll stay clear of Puma. I'm going to stay away from Puma till I get on the treadmill.
Yeah, because you've got to have a fucking 6-pack to wear one of them shirts, haven't you?
But, exactly.
I don't know. You know what? The mad thing about City now is, years and years ago, as you know, it was about how shit the football was, and everyone fucking had a gripe about how shit we were. Now, the biggest gripe that we've got as a fan base is whether our kits are good kits or bad kits. I think it's fucking phenomenal, mate. You know, the fact that that's the meat of our argument these days.
Yeah, and that's always been the one thing I literally don't care about. I don't actually care what a kit. You know, I'm just not bothered as long as the team are doing well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you know, if they started changing our home shirt, do you remember who was it the team a couple of years ago, Cardiff, where they wanted to change them from blue to red or some shit like that.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that would be a bit naughty. Yeah.
As long as we have a fucking sky blue shirt, I know that we had laser blue. A lot of people forget the fucking laser blue. But do you remember the laser blue?
Kappa kit. Was that the Kappa kit?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit of a. I don't know. I just got visions of Jamie Pollock heading the ball. Goalie.
Jesus, he's fatter than me, that cunt. But yeah, he had a slab head as well, didn't he? Fucking hell.
He did, yeah. Could play him at centre back now, couldn't we? I think the weirdest thing here, Rob, in terms of the difference, like you're talking about the difference between UK and sort of Canada for football, I think it's just a different mentality here. It's like going to the cinema. I go and watch the Whitecaps. The stadium's just up the road, and it's crap standard of football. Really bad. I mean, worse than when City were bad. But it's just like a cinema experience. All you smell is popcorn. Nobody really gets into it. Nobody gets angry and frustrated. Like we, back home, if we lose or we have a bad game, we're all gutted, aren't we, for the whole weekend? Yeah. The weekend's over. Here, they literally talk about like what they watched on TV while the game's going on.
Oh, listen, I mean,
that would annoy me.
I totally know it. One thing that I experienced when I lived in New England, I used to go and watch the New England Revolution, they were called, and there were also the Patriots. Now, the seats that you sat in, maybe it was different in like, maybe there was a hardcore zone, maybe. But in the seats that I sat in, you had like maybe a foot on either side to the next seat. You had fucking a massive cup holder and a fucking pizza tray, because you could order McDonald's, KFC, or Pizza Hut to your seat while watching the game.
Oh yeah, they bring me a beer in my seat at the Vancouver Whitecaps. Yeah. They come round with the beers and you just grab a can out of the tray and sit and drink it on your seat.
And there was a guy, a regular, because I used to go and watch the Patriots as often as I could. And there was a guy who had a season ticket sat behind me with his mate, and they used to, peanuts with the shells still on. They used to sit there shelling peanuts all game, eating the fucking peanuts.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, and it's a right old mess in it afterwards.
Yeah, and at the end of the game, they'd just be like a fucking aisle full of peanut shells.
Yeah.
But they couldn't have spent more than 2 minutes of the 90 actually watching the match. The
It's funny you say
conversations
that. Somebody did that the other week when I was at the Wycat. The exact same thing. They were peeling the peanuts, and I said to me, "Missus, someone's got to clean that up. What's he doing?" I was going mental.
So it's a totally different. So you have got supporters clubs locals, yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
What do you miss most about? I mean, obviously, there's going to be things that you miss about Manchester and the life in Manchester, and there's going to be things that you don't miss. But what is there about Manchester City that you miss most? Because I mean, it can't. In some ways, it can't be the accessibility to the club, because if anything, the accessibility to the club is 1,000 times more than it ever was. You know, radio, internet, TV, you know, whatever. You are as up to date really as we are with things like transfer signings and our goings on in the club, right? But
yeah, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about, you know, Man City Fan TV and backing Andy, because, you know, Andy, he doesn't get paid for what he's doing. He runs his own business, and the guy works his socks off really to produce content, just like you're doing, Rob. Now you're doing the podcasts, and there's other guys out there, Steam Company, Cheeseman. You know, they're all doing a great job to bring content to the fans. And to be honest, I wish a lot of the infighting and the squabbling would stop between the fan channels, because I think that's gone a bit too far at times. And I've been as bad as anyone with the banter on Twitter and stuff, so I can't really speak. But yeah, the accessibility now is just amazing, and it's a big thank you to all of the guys who produce the content, because it keeps fans like me sort of in the loop, and I feel like City's still there, it's still in my heart, and I want to be a part of it still.
But what do you miss about the day to day though? What do you miss about actually, like, obviously there's, I can say, turning up at the games, or getting the bus from the city centre, or getting on the fucking tram if you're ever dumb enough to have got on the fucking tram to get to Manchester City, or going for a pint, or...
Yeah, I mean, my best memories go back to Main Road. I mean, my first game was 1988, and it was against Aston Villa. And I remember it because Tony Daly scored. We lost 2-0. And I just remember Tony Daly for Villa, this tricky guy, just like taking the mickey out of us, and he scored a goal. And I remember the experience of getting on because I lived in Withington, used to get on the little, to be honest, I didn't always get on the bus, I used to walk down Yew Tree Road, but we get on those little P11, remember them little B-line buses?
Yeah, of course I do,
yeah. Them little we used to get on them B-lines, and I remember getting on one, and like Lee Crooks, our own player, was sat next to me. Like that was the only seat available. He had his boots on his lap.
Yeah.
So I'm going to the ground, and he's like sat on the bus. I mean, I can't imagine that now, getting on the bus 192 with Aguero next to me. I can't imagine that. So most of my best memories go back to Main Road, I'll be honest, because that was where, as a teenager, I sort of grew up there, and I used to go in the Osborne pub, go for a curry down the Curry Mile, all the sort of banter of the Kippax, and then I moved into the North Stand and sat near the away fans in the North Stand.
But you were with me then. You were a real man in the North Stand. Yeah.
I was right at the back. Yeah, right at the back of the North Stand. I used to stand up at the back.
All them Kippax fannies, and everyone always fucking goes on about the Kippax. I said, yeah, you're only going about the Kippax because you're never in the fucking North Stand where the real men were. I used to love the North Stand.
Because originally the away fans were in the Platt Lane end, I think.
Yes, that's right. Well, when it was benched, they were sort of like, do you remember when they had the fences? They had fences and benches, and then they swapped them there. So they were away fans occasionally. I remember once when away fans were in the fucking Kippax. But I can't remember how many games it was. But so the away fans at Main Road have actually been in quite a few little different fucking pockets of the ground.
Yeah, they moved them around. But I remember when they put them in the North Stand, it's just that little bit. You had that little bit of mischief in you where you just wanted to be near the away fans and giving it to them a little bit. So we used to sit at the back, and I remember Natalie Pike used to sit about 10 rows in front of me, and all the lads were like, "Oh my God, Natalie Pike," and no one ever had the guts to go and speak to her. So I remember that, and I remember one game as well. Remember Helen the Bell?
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, we all remember Helen the Bell. I actually ended up sat next to her on the front row one time, and that was just an amazing experience. She was telling me about playing Juventus away, and she travelled to Juventus. To Turin to watch City play Juventus, and there was no women's toilets, and she had to go in with the men. And I'm just looking at this woman thinking, City play Juventus, like it was just weird for me. And then obviously nowadays, we're doing it all the time. So yeah, I feel very lucky that sort of had that kind of experience with such a sort of legend of the club. Meeting her and stuff. So yeah, loads of happy memories spent with my brother, because my brother was sort of me wingman. We went to the games together, and yeah, miss it. I miss it, to be honest.
There was in the first podcast I did with Tony. I don't know if you listened to that, but he was bang on. At some point in the 90s, the best thing about going to Main Road was the fucking kebab in Rusholme, because they were that fucking wank. So even I'm warming to the Etihad. Don't get me wrong, I'm warming to it. It's a good footballing stadium, probably, but it's still missing heart. And I think that every single time that they had these additions, like the Tunnel Club has obviously been the most recent one. That's like the left ventricle has been removed now, if you know what I mean. Main Road was all about heart. Anyone who was ever in a box at Main Road was always a fucking box wanker, but they were limited and they were out of sight. Now, when you look at the Etihad, that Tunnel Club is front and centre in it. You can't miss it, and you can't miss when it's empty either. And it just so there's some heart there at the Etihad that Main Road had that the Etihad I don't think will ever have. Maybe it will. Maybe when they start putting up fucking Bernardo Silva statues and naming it the fucking Vincent Company family stand or something, or maybe if the Arts and Crafts Club that is the 1894 group fucking do some more arts and crafts and makes it more homely. I don't know.
Yeah, put that gold ship sailing across the stand.
It's all nice that they've got arts and crafts, but if they fucking start singing, I won't mind it either. Anyway, that's me personally, but it's just something that you'll never, ever, ever. And I'm sure that Everton as well, if Everton ever leave Goodison, I think they'll be a dead club for 10 years until they find their feet again. I think we proved last season with the Tottenham game and the Liverpool game. The Liverpool game was magic because they did, when they get into that boring ass song that they've got, that Celtic have got, Willie, as well. Mm-hmm. We never ever once let them get into it. We just booed it straight down, and then we started singing our City songs. And they proved to me that for a fleeting moment or two, the Etihad could be as good as Main Road was. But the thing about Main Road is that we got those atmospheres for the worst fucking games as well as the best games. So when we can start doing it on a consistent basis, then I'll maybe start falling in love with the Etihad. But I'm still not in love with going to the Etihad. I'm still not in love with fucking travelling to the Etihad because it's a shit show. I'm not in love with Mary D's. It serves a purpose. I get that.
I mean, I think atmosphere from football grounds now is a thing of the past. Honestly, I think the new modern stadiums, you're never going to get those atmospheres that you had. Because I mean, when you think back to Main Road, you could jib in. You could just jib in over the barrier. Everyone used to squash it and jump in, or take a run and jump over. And it was just that everyone was just piled in. It was just a different kind of.
So you're calling me a dinosaur then, basically, saying that I need to shut the fuck.
Yeah, I am, Rob. Yeah, I think I think you're a dinosaur now. No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I get what you're saying. You want to bring it back. It's nostalgia and that. But I just think it's more like a cinema. It's getting like here. It's getting like Canada. It's a cinema experience.
If anyone ever tries eating popcorn next to me at the Etihad, they're getting the fucking bucket put over their head.
It's going to come, mate. Didn't they have Jamie Oliver last time I was there? I think they had Jamie Oliver doing or was it Marco Pierre White or something like that doing the food in the stands now? So it's on its way, mate. It's going to be popcorn and them big foam hands with the finger pointing up. We're all going to be waving them soon.
Not for me. I ask everybody this, obviously you two are in a unique position of not being able to attend every week or every other week. But will there ever come a point where you'll say no to Manchester City?
No,
impossible. It's literally in my heart. It's been there since day one.
No chance.
Because I remember many years ago, Manchester used to have an ice hockey team, which I still think we've got, but it's not in Manchester anymore, because they were called Manchester Storm. And I liked ice hockey. And I considered myself a Manchester Storm fan. And then suddenly they disappeared overnight. And I thought, well, it was fun while it lasted, and they were there, and I enjoyed them, and I endeared myself, endeared to them and stuff like that. But with Manchester City, ice hockey was never a way of life in Manchester, obviously. Basketball would never be a way of life in Manchester, even though I think there's muting somewhere down the road. We want to have some sort of basketball league in this country. American football will never that'll never be in my heart. The second I left America, I stopped following fucking the the New England Revolution. But with Manchester City, it's so ingrained in me as a person, and not just the football of it now, obviously, now with all the new social side to it and all the rest of it.
Well,
But
I'll
I
tell you
think-
this.
I think I'd lose part of my life. I'd permanently lose part of my life. It's like if my child died or...
Yeah, well,
Mm.
see when Rangers went through their administration troubles back in 2012, and it looked like there was going to be no more football played at Ibrox, I would have just stopped following football at that point. Like, I was like, almost in tears. Like most fans, like you've gone there with your dad, your granddad for generations or whatever back in all ever since it was formed, and then it's like, why would I consider supporting a different team? Like, football would just be dead for me. I'd shut the doors that day.
Have you ever tried watching a big game that doesn't involve City? Even though you love football. I love football.
Well, when I was younger, I used to watch every game. Euros, internationals, everything that was on telly. I remember once, I think it was Euro 2012, I was watching Slovakia, Slovenia. God knows why. I was just watching games like that. But now, if it's not Rangers or City, then I just can't be bothered with it.
Do you know what it is now as well, Willie? I think because the standard is so high with City, everything's a come down. You know, when you watch anything else, like I find that I can't watch any other games now because I'm getting frustrated.
I think it's just because I'm not invested in the two teams that are playing. Really, if I'm invested, then I'm emotionally involved with it. So I'm one of those that just shouts at stray passes. How did you miss that chance? Blah blah blah.
You know what's incredible to me? When we watched the City win the league in 2011, 2012, or even the FA Cup in 11, that was the best football that we'd ever seen. We weren't around for the 60s and 70s, and a lot of people from the 60s and 70s even now say that football was great, but it's nothing compared to what we've seen under Pep Guardiola. But if you look back now, and because I used to record all the games before there was TiVo boxes or Sky Plus or anything like that. I used to record all the games, and I've still got them all on a hard drive from that 11-12 season. And I've rewatched some of them, and some of the football we played was shit. Some of it was wonderful, but compared to what we've played over the last 2 seasons under Guardiola, it's a different fucking sport, and it's just what. Guardiola can leave. I've said this before. Guardiola can leave, and I don't think standards would drop at City. I think there's so much infrastructure and so much in place at City now to just keep us going and going and going and going and going and going. But the football that we've been privileged to watch, whether it's on Sky or whether it's at the game or whatever, has just been so different class to anything else that's ever been witnessed in world football. Even not that, what was it, the Barcelona team of 11 or whatever it was, or the United team of 99 or whatever these great teams are, the Arsenal team of the Invincibles. And the football played over the last 2 seasons for Manchester City has just been so above and beyond any of that.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's such a struggle sometimes to watch other football, because, like I say, I mean, I watch games with my United mates, and I'm as frustrated as they are, and obviously, and I don't give a toss about United. You know what I mean? I don't care what happens, but I'm sat there and I'm frustrated at the passing, thinking that wouldn't happen with City. You know, we'd just play the ball back now, and he'd open up the angle, and we're spoiled basically.
Oh, we are so spoiled. But one of the things that I was trying to get at when I asked you if there's ever a point that had come in your life where you just gave up on football, what I was sort of getting at was, now, if you look at things like, is it the AFL and the NFL are talking about having season games in London and stuff like that, and then there was that thing with Barcelona and Real Madrid last season where they were talking about having season games in America, I think it was. But there are certain, in America, like a big NFL team, if they're located too close to another big NFL franchise, they'll just lift up and move cities, right? That's happened quite a few times. Now, Manchester City now has transcended the sort of football club status. It's now a global brand, or it's becoming a global brand. So there may very possibly be a time in the future where there's no such thing as a Premier League anymore. There's just a European Super League, let's call it, and Manchester City might not necessarily have to play at the Etihad anymore. The Premier League and the lower leagues might just become some separate fucking entity, and there's 10 super clubs in the United Kingdom or something like that. is that still your Manchester City? Is that still something you follow? You know, and at that point in the future, let's say it's a decade from now or 2 decades from now, where even people like me are priced out of season tickets, or they just aren't season tickets anymore, and it's just some sort of fucking weird lottery that they do or something. Is that still the same thing? Is it still the club that you root for? Is it still your team? You know, what point do we have to get to where it's just almost unrecognizable? Because, like I've said, the football has become unrecognizable from what we've been used to for decades. At what point does the brand itself have to become unrecognizable before you start having second thoughts, or am I just like a soothsayer of doom here and it'll never happen? Or
I think the world's just changed, hasn't it? You know, I mean, it's a global market now, so I accept it. To be honest, I just accept it as the way of the world. So if it does move around and it travels around, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. And I hope the main games still stay in England, and maybe just the odd like one fixture or something is played overseas. But now I'm living away. I'm like, great. If there's a chance that City might come to my city, then brilliant. I want to see it. But I understand from my old point of view would have been like, nah, I don't want any games going out of England because I can't get to them. And so yeah, I don't know. I think it's still the same city, no matter where they play in the world. And that's what the song is, isn't it? Isn't that the City song?
the world.
No, not that one. What's the other one? The Boys in Blue, Never Give In. Isn't there a bit that mentions around the world? I might have my lyrics wrong.
I don't know. I seem to remember probably about 20 years ago now, there was a Budweiser advert where it was, you know, like this, like, is it Carlsberg's? Like if Carlsberg did football, it would probably be the best football in the world, blah, blah, blah. But Budweiser had their own sort of version where it was like if Budweiser did football, and it was like they changed the team's names, and it was like instead of Manchester City, Manchester United, we'll have Team Manchester, you know, and they played in a purple shirt, and they introduced a multi-ball system, and you know they were rebranding all these teams. Like Portsmouth became the Portsmouth Pirates and stuff like that, and it's like that was 20 years ago. That was a joke advert, but is there ever going to become a point where there is just because United as a club?
I don't think that would have happened.
No, but United as a club have fallen to fucking pieces. They've got a Meccano stadium that's fucking falling apart. They've got
one thing,
owners.
the fans wouldn't let it happen.
You say that though, but like I've said to you, the difference.
Both sides hate each other just as much.
20 years ago, Willie, 20 years ago, me as a teenager going to watch City, I was welcomed in by the old boys because it was you one of us now. Whereas the young boys now are not being welcomed in. They're just sort of, have you earned it? Have you earned it? So at what point do we become so disassociated with ourselves as a club and each other as a fan base? And when do we get priced out? And when does that passion and hatred and rivalry just die? And then the new breed, as Kiam has suggested, that get used to it. There might not be any songs in the future, and it might be fucking popcorn stadiums or whatever. At what point does that ever happen, or does it never happen?
I think it's a doomsday scenario that you're thinking about that don't think will ever happen. Not in this country. I know in America, NBA, NFL, ice hockey teams move cities not fairly regularly, but every 10 years or so, and then you kind of lose the fan base from that city, and then the city loses its identity for a sports team, if you like. But I think because football in this country is more of a tradition, then I don't think the fans would let that happen.
What do you think, Kiam?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a little bit of conditioning, sort of social conditioning going on. You know what I mean? I think the way the media is now, it's pushing people into this sort of like marketing robot, if you like, where, you know, like this, you're going to go out and buy all the merchandise and just follow the club and click on the club shop and buy everything from the club shop. And I think they're actually trying to break that link that me, you, Willie have sort of, you know, that real link with the club. I think they want to break that because I don't think they care about the real fan, and they don't care if, you know, it's Mr. A or Mr. B sat in that seat, or, you know, they just want to sell the merchandise. They want to sell that ticket, and they don't care if it's you know, Bob from Wythenshawe or a guy from wherever, Australia, buying that ticket. So I think they're trying to work year by year, and I think as the generations go by, I think we're just going to see like I say, the popcorn type stadiums that we've got here in Canada. It's just it will go that way. But it's up to the dads in England now to
Yeah,
try and
yeah.
keep the history going and pass that on to the kids.
I'll tell you something that I notice about myself as a fan. Now, I buy my season ticket, and I'll buy me away tickets, and I'll buy me tickets for Wembley or Champions League or whatever. But beyond that, the club, after they've had that money out of me, get fuck all out of me. If I'm going to drink before a match, I'll drink in town. I get to the stadium, I go in, I might have a beer, a £4.50 beer or whatever. And then I'm to my seat, I'm watching a match. I'm not spending any more money than that on Manchester City. Once a season, they might have 60 quid out of me for an away shirt. But then when I'm also at the ground, I noticed a lot of the tourists and a lot of the day trippers and all the rest of it, they've got fucking loaded shopping bags from the club shop. They're buying into the match day experience. They're going into City Square. They're buying the pie or the fucking pulled pork or burgers or whatever it is. They're buying the match. I stopped buying match programs 20 years ago. They're buying this, they're buying that, and the amount of money that the club are getting out of these fans compared to the getting out of me, a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd rather fill the fucking stadium with them than me. Not that they've ever, there's never been an undertone or an overtone that they want me out. Nothing like that's ever been said, or I don't think it'll ever be said. But it's far more profitable for them to have that type of fan coming in than it is for me.
I mean, you think now, Rob, if you've got any City fans out there that might be on sort of employment benefits, anything like that, they can't go to games anymore. But back in the day, you could probably just about scrape enough money together to still get in the ground. Whereas those people have been priced out. So it's the working people now who can get to games. But eventually, the way they're going to push it, those sort of middle of the road working people who are on a sort of lower salary, if you like, they won't be able to afford it. And then it's just going to go up and up. And eventually we'll have a stadium full of what you called before, I think you called them box wankers. Executive. Right. Yeah, we're pretty much going to have a stadium full of those kind of guys. That's how I see it going in the future. But maybe I'm being a bit doom and gloom.
I don't know, because, I mean, like, I used to get told tales from the 50s and 60s where Mancunians would go and watch United on the Saturday and City on the Sunday or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also think, I don't know, that hardcore element that you spoke about a minute ago, where you're saying it's up to dads now to tell their kids what City's all about, but the people that are having kids now, the mid-20s people that are having kids now, are barely on that cusp of remembering fucking Gillingham in '99 or whatever. You know, they'll know the Pace era or when we were still shit, the Keegan era or whatever. But the vast majority of their City watching life has been fucking success. We've had a decade of success now. A decade of success almost, you know.
Yeah.
You got the internet now, though. Go back and research all this history if you're that interested when you're young.
But does that matter? That doesn't matter if you go and spend your money in a club shop, you know.
Yeah, I see that, but
to me,
I'd rather have a stadium like me and you who just buy the season ticket, go to the games, and not spend anything in the club shops than have tourists going, spending hundreds of pounds and not creating any atmosphere.
Don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against the club shop. It's just not for me. I don't need to be fucking head to toe club shop wanker. I don't need.
I get your point there. Yeah, but I don't know. It's just I would class that as a normal fan. You buy the shirt, you buy the season ticket. If you're taking your kids, you're gonna buy them a burger or a pie or whatever. I know it's not money making, if you like, but look at that report a few years ago. Like half the Premier League teams don't even need fans to turn a profit anymore.
Yeah, we're
the amount of TV money they're getting.
Exactly. It's true that they could actually give the tickets away.
Exactly.
They'd be fine, yeah, fill the whole stadium. But that's why I'm sure it's just it's sort of planned, it's orchestrated that they do want to price people out of football. And
fuck me, Shapeman so could pay all our fucking mortgages off and not fucking bat an eyelid, couldn't they?
Oh, true, right? Yeah, bloody hell. Yeah. That's what I was saying I think I said on Twitter or something today. Everyone was talking about getting a statue outside the stadium. I think we should get like an oil well statue outside the stadium, just to boil a bit of piss. I think that'd be pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. An oil well fountain would be fucking class.
Oh, imagine that. Oh yeah.
Right at the end of Mercer Way. Fuck yeah. Straight out of the canal.
Exactly. Just have it there. Welcome to Manchester. We call it.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love it. Yeah. Sorry, you got me fantasizing there about all the fucking shit we could have up outside the ground. Was it about 15 years ago when they put all our names outside the ground? You know, on them spiral staircases. All the season ticket holders, they put all our names on there.
Yeah, it did me edit that. Try to look for it. It took it.
It did.
Did you find your name?
I did, yeah. Well, I've got a pretty generic. I mean, my name's Robert Campbell, so there was about fucking 15 Robert Campbells on there. So, but I was one of them, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I ever found it. I was like looking, and I was like, "Nah, I need a beer." So this is doing me head in now. So, yeah, I think my brother-in-law as well. He got his name on one of them plaques in the ground. Right, you know where the bridge is, that Nexon Bridge. Yeah. I think he's got his plaque on the. I don't know why, but it's on the ground there.
Well, I had a joke with some mates at the time. Remember we was in the full throes of the Gary Cook experience, you know, Mr. Nike and making it all corporate and shit like that. I said one day there'll be a fucking roller coaster that goes over the Etihad, you know, and comes in over the halfway line so you can watch the game while it's going on live and then fucking, you know. One day we'll arrive at that point where there'll be a fucking, a Blackpool Big Dipper going over the Etihad and round, and you can ride the roller coaster while watching City play.
But like that casino in Vegas, New York, they've got a roller coaster that goes through the casino.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, why not?
Yeah, no, blimey. If it ever goes that way, then I might reassess my opinion. I might lose. I might go and support Altrincham or something, and see if we can find a dodgy link and watch Altrincham in Canada.
Find the Altrincham supporters club.
Yeah, blimey. Yeah.
So I think I mean, you know, City has always had like these mad little supporters clubs around the world, and no matter whether we've been good or bad, we've always had supporters clubs. But in my opinion, it's always been like one or two guys that have just fucking moved to the back end of Australia, and you know, and just trying to be as Mancunian as possible. You know what I mean? But you look at some of these supporters clubs from around the world now, like the Sierra Leone supporters clubs, and these ones in Thailand and South Korea and Japan and there's fucking hundreds of the bastards, isn't they? All wearing the latest merchandise, all fucking loving City.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's literally. That's what it's all about now. You've got to grow that fan base. Got to do it.
I mean, that's why I got you guys on today. I mean, because I know that you're both City fans, and Kiam, you especially have been a City fan since the 80s, and you're from Manchester. But I wanted to get a sort of like a bit of a, because you are to me you're global because you're not in Manchester and you're not going regular. But you're still very involved with Manchester City. So I just wanted to get like an I want to know, because to me, I could be a kid in some Tanzanian village and I'd probably wear a City shirt. You know, do you remember the Maid adverts in the 90s where they used to have kids in Barcelona shirts and stuff like that? You know, I always found that fascinating. Like, does that little kid even know what the fuck, you know, the shirt he's wearing is all about? And I just think it's amazing that there's just all these people all around.
You get that a lot now. You get that. You do get that here as well. Like I went to watch and I sound very civilized when I say this. I went to watch the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra. They play in the park just near my house. And I went to watch them the other night. And the guy come on to present the orchestra, and he introduced them and whatever he had to say. He was the head of the park board, I think, for Vancouver. And then he said, "Oh, wait a minute," and he just unzips his jacket, and he's got the new City third kit, the yellow one, underneath. And I was like, "Whoa," you know, and I'm thinking that's not even been released yet, which is another matter. But you know, I think he's in government or something, so he'll probably get away with it. So I sent him a message. I sent him a message just to say, you know, are you a Blue, and just ask him a couple of questions. And he came back to me and he said, "No, I'm a Sheffield Wednesday man, and I like a bit of Everton." He said, "But I just like the colour of that kit."
Jesus, you got poor taste.
No, but you know what I mean? It's just like random people will just pick up the shirts now because they're there. They're out there. They're being marketed, and random people will just start wearing them. But that's all good for the brand.
See, I always thought the decline of our club came about with half and half scarves, but then I realised that they wouldn't make half and half scarves unless there was a fucking demand for half and half scarves. You know what I mean? Yeah. These guys selling the dodgy scarves outside the ground, they're not doing it for fucking the love of the game. They're doing it to make money. So there's obviously massive demand for all this. I mean, you'll see, there's two club shirts that I'll wear: Manchester City and Glasgow Rangers. That's it. You'll never ever you won't catch me in a fucking AC Milan shirt, a United shirt, a Chelsea shirt, a Barcelona shirt. You won't ever catch me in that shit. Now you're saying there the guy he's got a taste for Sheffield Wednesday and he's also an Everton fan, but he was wearing a City shirt. It's
Yeah.
mad, but it must have been fucking 10 times as mad for you. You're in the middle of fucking Canada and you're seeing a guy wearing a fucking City shirt, you know.
It was weird. What was weird as well, there was a lad 3 rows in front of me, sat on the grass, and he had a pair of City jogging bottoms on. And I'm like, what's going on here tonight? About the orchestra and watching all these City fans just bobbing up. Well, I mean, one of them.
That's because of the Tunnel Club. That is. That's the Tunnel Club that's done that.
Probably is. Yeah, probably all gone for
all these highbrow City fans that are out there now.
prawn sandwiches or whatever you call it. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting just to see the change though, because like I say, a few years ago when I came over to the States, there was no City shirts. There's shops downtown here now. There's like little gift shops and stuff, and there's a shop like a British shop where they sell things like all your old Bisto gravy and stuff like that. And all that kind of stuff. But in there, you go in and they've got all these City like memorabilia, and they've got City pint glasses. So I bought a couple of City pint glasses the other week from there, and it's just weird because I'm like, you just don't expect to see it. But now, I suppose you do now. But back in the day, you're lucky if anyone even knew City were.
Yeah. Listen, I used to go to places like when I was at university in Lancaster. I was, what's that? 50 miles up the road.
Yeah.
And if I saw someone in an Oldham shirt or a Rochdale shirt or not a United shirt, but I'd go up to him and go, "Oh fuck me, you're almost local to me." You know what I mean? And you get like a little buzz off it. But now you can go anywhere in the fucking world and see a City shirt. It must be just mind blowing.
I'll tell you a funny story actually about a City shirt, and it got me in a lot of trouble. But there was on the seawall here. I remember I mentioned earlier. I think when we were off the call, I mentioned there's a lot of yoga pants and lattes going around. Yeah. So you get the girls going down the beach here in front of my apartment, and they're in the little skimpy outfits and whatever. And I'm just walking down the beach. And anyway, this girl, she's coming along, jogging along. She's got a City shirt on. So I'm walking with my missus, and I went, "Oh, nice shirt." And and the girl was a pretty girl, shall we say? And I swiftly got a slap off my wife.
You can't say that. Hashtag me too. You can't say that in 2019.
Yeah. It's like, what are you looking at? But I was just so excited, like you say, to see a City shirt. It just came out of my mouth. Nice shirt. And I probably shouldn't have said it. She probably reported me to the police 5 minutes later. But it does it. It's just great to see them around.
Right. So we've had the fucking easy topics. Let's get into the controversy now. I should have like a little button, like on the radio, they have them little stings where it's like controversial section. Let's talk about fucking VAR, shall we?
VAR.
Oh dear.
William, I want to start with you on VAR. Tell me how it's going to kill football.
How it's going to kill football? I don't know. It's just like the actual referees who are sitting in these wee booths that they've got and deciding, because if it's not actual official referees, then it's just going to be some random guy going, that's a bit borderline. We'll just play it on. Like they need to follow the letter of the law. And but looking back at the Tottenham game with Llorenti's handball, the ref never saw all the angles for that, and I still don't understand why that was given as a goal, because it was clear as day it was a handball. Still in my mind it's a handball. Aguero, still in my mind, was not offside from Bernardo Silva's pass or interception even. And I think it's just going to kill. Well, look at the Women's World Cup. 15 minutes injury time.
Cameroon.
I don't know what game it was, but 15 minutes injury time. Like, games are going to be played for another 2-3 extra hours. Like,
what about the Scotland game? The Scotland game where they took the penalty, the Scottish keeper saved it, and then they had to retake the penalty because she fucking, I don't know, a shoelace went over the line or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's a new rule as well, isn't it? The goalkeeper has to have 1 foot on the line, or if they're jumping, it's got to be above the line or something. Like next season, I don't know. I just don't like these overall rule changes for this summer for any kind of football next year, because next year it's just going to be strikers shooting balls at defenders, and if it hits them in the hand, it's a penalty. I mean, it just seems a bit ridiculous. No matter if it's like 5 yards away from them.
I just want to have a little bit of 2 cents here. Then we'll come to Kiam and then we'll come back to you, Willie. So, my thoughts on VAR. When I look at the Premier League and I look at the officiating in the Premier League, I look at referees like John Moss, who is a fat cunt and can't keep up with Leroy Sané. So how the hell is he going to officiate a game properly if he's puffing on his asthma inhaler and unable to keep up with play? There don't seem to be enough world class, because let's remember the football in the Premier League is world class for the most part. The officials don't seem to be on the same level as the football being played, and there aren't enough of them on the pitches for regular season games. So how the hell are you going to provide an extra 6 per booth? You know, one of the suggestions, one of the things that was told to me, Tony thought his thought on VAR was the fact that there's just going to be 6 officials in a booth and they're going to be monitoring all the games at once. I can't see that being a possibility. So in my mind, the only way you could do it would be to have a set of 6 VAR officials per game that's actually going on. But where are they all going to come from? Are they all going to be trained at a university and fucking a degree in VAR? Are they going to be ex-referees? And if they are going to be ex-referees, you know yourself that if even just playing amateur football with your mates in the park, if you stop playing football for 6 months, you're fucking 6 months behind and it takes you time to get back up to speed. So the second you leave the game as a referee, the rules are changing, the rules are evolving, and you're no longer up to match speed. So, and we haven't even got good enough referees on the pitches as it is at the minute. So where are all these extra people going to come from? Kiam?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the opposite view to Willie actually, and I'm pro VAR, and that might sound a bit controversial, but I actually love it. If I could have VAR in my house, I'd have it in my house to keep a track on what's going on. But no, I always want to get the right decision on the pitch, and I think most of the time VAR does get the right decision. Not all the time. We've seen a few dodgy ones. But as long as the rules are clear, and I think this is where the problem lies, the rules are all over the place. You've got a set of rules in Europe, you've got a set of rules in England, and it's like we need one set of rules. Get one set of rules in place, and then the VAR can develop from there. But it has to get faster. We need maybe even ex-players looking at the VAR.
Where are these officials going to come from? And what level of accreditation are they going to have?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
And are they open to manipulation? And are they showing all the angles? Are they only showing a certain amount of angles? Do they have time limits? Yeah. Is interpretation of the laws of football still open as it is an actual referee on the pitch? Is every decision going to be reviewed? Are there enough people to review a decision? You know, there's a
lot of things that have to be ironed out. But the only way you can iron those things out is by having it. That's how I see it. You've got to do it, and we're going to have to go through these years of, you know, mistakes and controversy, and we're going to have to wait. But eventually, once they improve it, once they get it up to speed, I think it's going to be perfect for the game. But the flip side of it, and this is the only thing that gets me on VAR, is you lose that passion, you lose that moment.
Well, certainly from the World Cup in 2000, and when was the World Cup? 16, 18? What fucking year are we in? I don't know. The one that England were in, and there was all that VAR going on. 18. Yeah. Right. It's evolved from then. We've already seen its evolution since that point. But as you've just pointed out a minute ago, the rules in international tournaments and the rules in Champions League and the rules in Premier League are going to be different rule sets. So how the fuck does that work? It's effectively a different sport at that point.
Yeah, the powers that be have to get together and get one set of rules. Either one set of rules or ditch VAR. Simple as that for me.
And not only that, the leagues that can't afford VAR become a different sport at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was it the Swansea game in the FA Cup? I mean, they actually had VAR, didn't they? But they didn't have it. And to be honest, I'm not having all this like Swansea would have beat us and stuff because nobody won. We were battering them second half. We would have scored anyway. So I'm not having all that. But I know what you're saying. It's where it stops, and it, you know, maybe just the top leagues in each country should have it. I don't know how they work that in. But everybody is resistant to change. Nobody likes change, do we? We're all a bit like we don't like change, whether it be in life or football. But I think we need to get the decisions right, because I can't go through what I did in the 90s, watching United literally getting decisions left, right, and centre. I remember watching Paul Scholes against Bolton at Old Trafford. He fell probably near the centre circle, and I think he staggered forward, fell into the box, and they gave a penalty. And I'm like, what have I just watched? And I've seen that over the years. We've seen it a lot of the times. It's always the big clubs seem to get those decisions. We know the Sky Cartel clubs, as we call them, they seem to get the decisions. And if it can correct some of that, I'm all for it. We need to have it in, I think. Yeah. And regardless of how awkward it is to begin with, how many mistakes are made, whatever the accreditations the officials have to get, it's going to take time. But, maybe look at bringing in ex-players as well to look at it. But, yeah.
Who decides what gets reviewed? Do you take it completely out of the referee's hands, or do you rely on the referee to put something to review?
Take it out of the referee's hands. I think they should get the message in the earpiece, and that's it. It goes to VAR review.
I thought the whole idea of bringing it in was to assist the referee in terms of if he's made a mistake or missed something, say off the ball or whatever is going on, not to actually, because it just seems kind of pointless reviewing every little foul. Like, unless it's in or around the box, yeah, I agree, it should be reviewed. But if they're gonna, and what's the word I want for? If they're gonna look at every individual incident, I don't know. It's just
it's a good point, that Willie. Actually, I mean, you could just have VAR for like the final third of the field.
Yeah.
So that not every little. Well, then again, I suppose people will just be like elbowing each other off the ball and stuff, wouldn't they?
I've got two things to say on it. Now, Tony, my first guest, he suggested that we should have flags. Like that they have in the NFL, I think it is, where
a challenge,
a challenge flag. Each team's given 2 flags in the first half and 2 flags for the second half. You get the challenge back if you are right for challenging, and you lose a challenge if you're wrong for challenging. That was his suggestion for it, to keep the game flowing, because imagine every single blade of bloody grass being scrutinised by VAR is a possibility if they go too far the other way. The other thing was sort of like changing the length of a game. Now, one thing that was muted years and years ago was changing football to 60 minutes, but every single time the ball's out of play, the clock stops.
Remember that.
Now,
I love that idea, actually, the clock stopping. I think it's a great idea.
I love the idea of the clock stopping, but I don't love the idea of 60 minutes. How about 80 minutes and the clock can stop? Because you look at rugby league, for example, where the referees are mic'd up, and you hear every decision that the referee has to make and why he's made the decision is explained verbatim right there to you. So there's no confusion, there's no bullshit, there's no questioning. I mean, but counter to that point is something that people always bring up to me is part of the thing we love about football is the fact that we can talk about it so much.
Yeah.
If you sterilize it to a point where there's no talking points, there's no contention, and there's no Ashley Young fucking not getting sent off for smashing Aguero, or Mo Salah diving 6 yards outside the area and getting a penalty, or Loriente handballing it. If you remove all of that from football, you change the game completely. You sterilize it. So,
yeah, I mean,
how many fun Monday mornings have you had in the office or the warehouse or whatever, fucking arguing with your rag mates about what should have been or what shouldn't have been, or
to be honest, with VAR so far, it's probably created more talking points.
But it's the VAR itself that's been the controversy, though. It's the VAR itself that's been the controversy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like you say, with the handball with Loriente, some people think it was, some people think it wasn't handball.
As you've said to yourself, in 5 years' time, when it's smooth and ironed out, that's when we arrive at the point where there's no controversy. While it's still in the teething stages, yes, there's still going to be controversy. But eventually it'll get to a point where it's so ironed out that that controversy will be gone forever.
Yeah.
Now, so
you just have to wrap up the podcast then, Rob. You have to wrap up the podcast. Andy will have to stop Man City Fan TV. There'll be nothing to talk about.
So I don't know. I mean, if VAR addresses the Ashley Young situation, which I will keep going on about, then yeah, all for it. If it sterilizes football to the point where it's pointless watching it because the better team is always going to win, because that's the thing about football that I love as well. The Crystal Palace game that we did lose, I fucking loved football even more for that day, because it's how amazing we were, but we get Andros Townsend smashing a goal that he'll never score again in his entire career, and we're on our asses for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Football's
I mean,
amazing for that.
I do think, Rob, as well, when it comes to, I mean, you mentioned there about having the referee having the headset and explaining his decisions. I think that would be good. I think that would be something I'd be willing to move away from VAR if we could if the referees had a bit more accountability.
Yeah.
Where they explain the decision, and then after the game, when we interview the players and put them on the spot, let's interview the referees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's ask them,
they're far too protected as it is.
And let's have a league table for the referees. So if a referee's really, not performing, they get demoted to the league below. Instead of just sitting there protected, they can do whatever they want.
Well, that's all cloak and dagger at the minute, because if you notice, certain referees do get demoted, but you never hear why, or you sort of know why, because they've not given Liverpool a favourable decision or United a favourable decision.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
I always thought, the standard of European refereeing is worse than the standard of English officiating. But I always thought, why not? Because that there's all this controversy, like Mike Dean's a Tranmere fan and blah, 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 and that other one's an Altrincham fan, even though his cousins and his brothers and his aunties and his uncles have all got season tickets at Old Trafford and shit like that. Why not just fucking use referees from France or Spain or whatever in our country, and then our referees can fuck off over there and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be easy enough these days, wouldn't it? It's not. You just pop on a flight. It's not exactly much more travel for the referees to get there. So yeah, I'd be up for that. I mean, look at Pierluigi Collina, and there's some good referees out there. Back in the day, he was the best referee around. So I'd be open up to that. And like you say, there's less chance of there being corruption and people having allegiances and think. Well, maybe not corruption. That's there probably will still be corruption, but allegiances to clubs.
I think pay as well. I think I'd be happy with a referee who gets paid 500 grand a year, because I think they're on about between 60 and 100 grand a year or something they make. But why not just fucking, like there are certain jobs out there in the world where they just get paid arse loads of money, and they get paid arse loads of money because they're performing, i.e. football. Football is such a global sport. The players are on 200, 300, 400, 500 grand a week. Pay the referees more than they get paid. Make it one of those jobs that's desirable, because if I was a 15, 16-year-old lad now and I've just been released from City or whatever because I've not made it through their academy, and I'm looking at alternative career paths in football, refereeing's one of them, but it is not fucking glamorous in the slightest. There is no incentive for you to become a referee. So why not just make it a job where you get paid 200 grand a fucking year to do? Incentivize it, really incentivize it, because it's not as if there's a lack of fucking money in the sport. There is the money in the sport, and then the cream will come to the top then. That's why we've got the best footballers in the Premier League, because the cream rises to the top,
Yeah, I'd be open to that. And just bring the best of the best in. Like you say, like we do with the players, just bring the best refs over. Do it.
So, coming season, Manchester City, we've got a pre-season game against West Ham. I think, is it on Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that, in China, which will be about, 6 o'clock in the morning for you, 5 in the morning.
I've not even looked, actually. I can try and find out. What is it called? The Asia Trophy?
I have no idea. Probably.
Asia Trophy, I think. Let's have a look.
So obviously we're going to smash that tournament, and people are going to assume things that won't actually become true for the actual season, and blah 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 blah, and there'll be controversy and talking points. Was it last season or the season before where we got beat by United in America or something like that? And Edison rushed out of his area, or Muric rushed out of his area, and they were saying how fast Lukaku was and how he was going to take the Premier League by storm for United, and how they were going to smash the league by 100 points and score 500 goals and blah 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 blah. Because it was a pre-season game, and anyone can write any old bollocks of journalism that they want. So pre-season doesn't. The only thing pre-season does is give us more fans in China, whatever. But what about the actual season? What are your expectations? What's happening? Are we going to win everything again? Are we going to win the Champions League this time? Are we going to be allowed to win the Champions League?
Go for it, Willie.
On your point about pre-season, I don't think it matters. It's just a fitness thing. But on to the full season, like we said before, I think it will be a high 80s season. I mean, it will just be City and Liverpool challenging for it. League Cup, FA Cup, in theory, it should take care of itself. as long as you get favourable draws. Champions League, it's going to be a whole different ball game probably, especially after the group stages when it's a straight up knockout. I mean, I don't know. There's always one surprise team in the Champions League, and City get them. Unfortunately, get them. I mean, look at Monaco that year.
Yeah, and Ajax last year.
Ajax last year. Could be anybody this year. But I think the treble is definitely doable, and the Community Shield as well. We'll class that as another trophy as well. So definitely another 4 trophies, I think. But Champions League, on paper, yes, you should at least get to the final, but you have to get lucky in the draw. Have to get lucky in the draws.
Is it a disappointment if we don't win it this coming season?
As a fan, no, I don't think it would be a disappointment. I think it's just a case of trying to get as far as possible.
I think you're in the minority, by the way, saying that. I mean, I couldn't give a flying fuck about the Champions League, but I think you're in the minority by saying it wouldn't be a disappointment if City didn't win it this season. It's long overdue.
It is a long overdue, but I think it was Matt I was on the last podcast saying, like, the league is the bread and butter. You need to win the league. As long as you can just keep winning the league, then it's Europe is just kind of secondary. I know Pep really wants to win it, and I think if City do win the Champions League, I think they could kick on in Europe further and maybe dominate it, like Real Madrid did for a period there. So it is difficult winning it. But
that started with us, you know. Was it 2014 or 15 where we got Real Madrid in the semi-finals and we fucking just bottled it and wanked it away from home?
Yeah,
we could have battered them over those 2 games.
that's the thing. Over the last few seasons, City's not really been a good cup team. You see what I mean? Like, it's more over 38 games of the season, then it's doable. But not one straight up one knockout games, they kind of struggle a little bit. I don't know what it is if Pep just picks them up. I mean, look at that Wigan game when we got knocked out of the cup. Probably could have won that one if they played. I know it's a squad game and all that, and City should have the players to deal with the challenges from playing whatever league Wigan were in, Championship.
You know, it's talking about games like that Wigan game. Now, I think City. Nobody from the outside of City will ever look at it and go, "Oh, poor City." But the fucking injuries we've had at specific times of the seasons, like the company injury for like 3 years in a row, the De Bruyne injury last season, David Silva and his wee baby like the season before going away. How many fucking teams could miss David Silva for nearly a whole season yet still get 100 fucking points? Mendy over the last 2 seasons. Aguero always had injury spells. We had that game against Crystal Palace away where fucking De Bruyne, Gabby Jesus, and everyone got crippled. You know, the amount of injuries that this City team has and still held it together in spite of those injuries has been fucking phenomenal. Like any other team, you'd be fucking clapping them for days, but obviously it's City, so you don't. But
no, well, exactly. That's another thing. You get lucky with injuries because if that happens again to maybe more players, then I'm not going to say we'll struggle, but it will be difficult if we played 3 games a week with a reduced squad size.
That's why we need that company replacement, in my opinion. So, what will we win next season then, Willie? Give us a quick breakdown.
Premier League, definitely.
Who's the runner-up? Still Liverpool?
Yeah, still Liverpool. I think they're stronger than the rest of them. Because who was it third last season? Chelsea, Tottenham. I don't see Tottenham doing anything because they've not really signed anybody. I don't think.
And Belly, aren't they? The guy that we.
During the week of things. Definitely Premier League with Liverpool. It'll probably be close again.
Disappoint me. I want to win my League Cup in February. I love that fucking early day out. That's my favourite out of the fucking lot of them, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. In cup games, you just need to get lucky and get a good draw, and then get to the final, and then anything's possible. I think treble. I'm calling it a treble next season, at least.
Including the Champions League, is that?
No.
Not including the Champions League.
I don't think we'll win the Champions League. Domestically, I think we'll do well. All trophies, but I still don't.
Fuck me, there'll be Pep out signs coming up if you don't win that fucking Champions League.
I don't think Pep out. That's a bit much, but I don't know. We always seem to get screwed by UEFA, so I can't see it happening.
Still, it's a good season for me if we get 40 points, mate. So go on. Right, Kiam, go on. Tell us why we're all wrong and we're going to lose to Liverpool and get knocked out in the group stage of the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have a pretty similar season to this year, to the one just gone. I think we're going to win the treble again. I think we've got the best squad, like you mentioned earlier. We've got the best squad. We can cope with the cups, the FA Cup and I keep calling it Carling Cup, the Carabao, whatever it's called. We've got the best squad.
Sorry. Carabao.
Carabao, yeah, that's the one. The Carabao Cup. We've got the best squad to cope with that. The Premier League takes care of itself. I think we're just like a machine in the Premier League, albeit Liverpool are going to be on our tails. And I think if United get rid of Pogba, they're not going to be on our tails, but they will finish third. I think they'll probably still be about 10, 15 points behind. But I think United will have a decent season. And then I think Spurs as well. I think they're dark horses, actually, because Ndombele, I think he's a pretty good signing for him. I think he's actually going to give him a little bit of steel in the midfield, and they've already got the flair players to go around it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, over 38 games, I don't think they'll push us for the title. I think it is a two-horse race. It's us and Liverpool, simple as that. I think it's going to be like that probably for the next, 2-3 years. In terms of the Champions League, for me, the Champions League, you could just roll the dice. It's potluck. It is literally, it's a potluck competition because you're playing at the highest level. And when it's over two legs, you know yourself, like you saw it there against Spurs, if you have one bad night, that's it. You're out of the competition. So I think that's really hard to actually, predict that you're going to win the Champions League, even based on the squad that we have. But one thing I will say is that I think City have let themselves down in recent years defensively. I think our defence has been poor in the Champions League, and I think we should have a plan B. We don't seem to have a plan B. And you saw it against Spurs at the Etihad. We went all guns. Well. Yeah, Monaco. We went all guns blazing, and the defence is wide open. And that doesn't work in the Champions League. The teams that are successful in the Champions League are the ones who go away and they grind it out. They have a solid defence and they just grind out a 0-0 or they grind out a 1-0. And I don't think we have the ability to do that yet. So hopefully if we make the right signings this summer, we can get that edge and then we might have a chance of doing it. But until then, we're going to see teams like Liverpool do it because they can grind out results. Real Madrid, they can grind out. Those teams are ahead of us because they can grind out in cup games. And we can't do it.
Do you not think if we would have had a fully fit Kevin De Bruyne, though, we would have battered Tottenham over two legs?
No, because I think we're too open at the back. I think we're too open, and when Spurs pushed up on us, that was it. We were all over the place at the back. I mean, no
Fernandinho as well. Don't forget, no Fernandinho.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. I think Pep plays this style of football anyway. It's all or nothing. You know, pardon the pun, but all or nothing. You go for it, and you do leave spaces. You leave gaps over a 38-game season. You sort of get away with those little mistakes. You know, if you drop a couple of points, you make them back up.
Yeah. But
in the Champions League, that's it. You're gone. You're out of the competition. If you concede that away goal, you finished.
Is it must win though? Before
I think now for the project, as they call it, the overall project, I think the Champions League is now becoming something we need to. I wouldn't say it's essential we win it this season. Because if you look at Liverpool, even United, it took them 10 years of competing in the Champions League. We've only been in it realistically with a competitor.
Ferguson took over from Atkinson. It took them, 14, 15 years before they won the Champions League.
Exactly. So it takes time to win, to win the Champions League. And I think, how many years have we been in it now? Probably, 10 years?
Yeah,
8? No, probably less than that, like 8 years. And in those,
right? Like
and in those 8 years, we've only had a competitive team, I'd say, for about 4 of those years. I don't think at the beginning we were that good when we first started off in the Champions League. We didn't really have the players. whereas now we are serious contenders. So I think in the next sort of 2-3 years, we seriously have to, think about throwing everything into that and winning it, because we're never going to be considered in the top bracket of European clubs until we do it.
But do you buy into that though? I need to know, do you buy into that?
I do buy into it, yeah, because it's all media ruled now. Everything's in the media, and the image of the club and everything our owners want to do is all about the image and the brand. And I think we need the Champions League as a club. Personally, I can't stand the competition, and I prefer the Premier League. Like you say, that's the bread and butter, and I'd much prefer to win it. But I think as a brand, yeah, we do need to get the Champions League, but it's not essential, and I'm not going to be sort of crying if we don't win it next year. I think it's going to come. It's just a matter of time.
Don't get me wrong. If we were in the final and we lost, I'd be upset.
Oh yeah, I would. I would too. Yeah, especially if it was to the Liverpool. Jeez.
Oh yeah.
Never at the fucking end of it, Jesus Christ.
No, I can't even. I can't bring myself to think about the Community Shield. I don't even want to play them in that. I just can't stand. And it's not because I fear them or anything, because I think we'll beat them. But I don't know. I just don't like everything that goes with it.
Well, Chelsea were hot shit, weren't they, through the season until we played them in the Community Shield, and Phil Foden gave them a bit of an education in that second half. Speaking of Phil Foden, is this his year? Or does Bernardo move into the middle? Do we keep Gundogan? Does Gundogan stay, or can Gundogan go away? Or
Phil Foden, I think he needs to just be brought in for the odd kick. So I think I'd start him in all the cup games. I think he should be starting in most of the cup games now, and then bring him in for the odd Premier League game. But he definitely needs to sort of take David Silva's position a bit more this season and rotate with David Silva and introduce him to that role. Gundogan, I'm a little bit sort of. I could take or leave Gundogan. I'm not a
Gunda fan. I think I've made myself pretty clear on that.
Yeah, I could take him or leave him, to be honest. I like him, but I think he slows everything down.
Yes, he does.
And that being said, I mean, he did great last year. He came in for Fernandinho. Oh, my hands up. He worked his socks off, but we were still wide open when teams were breaking on us. He just, he's not what we need. But we've got Rodri now, haven't we? So hopefully he turns out to be the real deal and not Xavi Garcia Mark II.
Listen, Fernandinho was still putting a shift as well, the one thing I hope and pray for is just how many injuries did Liverpool have last season? One? None? How many injuries to key players did they have? One? None? How many extended periods of injuries did they have to key players? One? None? City, for the last 3-4 seasons, we just keep getting these dog shit injuries that just fucking at the wrong times of the season. I just want us to have a full potential season where we're just firing on all cylinders with no injuries. And I know that that's incredibly unlikely, but I just want it to happen for once.
When you looked at Liverpool last year, if you wanted to know the lineup of Liverpool, you didn't actually have to click on it.
No.
You just knew straight away it's going to be Mane, Firmino and Salah up front. With City, it's like the national lottery draw.
Yeah.
You're waiting for these, who's going to be where and what's going to happen. So, yeah, they got lucky last year, Liverpool, on that front.
So, yeah, an injury-free season for me. And I really do believe that if we have an injury-free season, we can absolutely smash everything. Absolutely everything, just blow everyone out of sight. I still think the Premier League, though, will be a lot closer. As in, we won't be, 32 points in front of United? That was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I know. I've almost sort of forgot about United now. And that sounds ridiculous. But, they're just so irrelevant now. I don't know. I mean, obviously, to get rid of Pogba, like I said, he could get better, but it's just weird. It's like I just don't even think about him as a contender, and that is just bonkers when I think about it.
No, it used to be a good season for us if we were within 32 points United. Now the 32 points, it's fucking hilarious. I love it. I hope they get relegated, though, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think Sky will allow that.
Oh, but come on, how good would that be? How good would that be? They'd start closing the top tiers of the stands like they do at Celtic, will they? Putting big flags up and
flags. Yeah.
At least we get to see what the fan base was really like if they actually got truly tested and went down.
Well, there'd be a lot less flights from Ireland anyway, wouldn't there?
Oh yeah, Ryanair would be out of business.
He's supposed to be a City fan, him, that Ryanair guy. I don't know how true that is.
Is it? Yeah, don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I've seen him on the TV program. I don't know. I thought he was United. Might be wrong.
So that's your expectations for City for next season. You think both of you are quite confident about the trophies. I get what you're saying about it being a roll of the die with regards to the Champions League, and I totally get what you're saying about the just the kamikaze attitude that we seem to have in certain Champions League games, and we have had over the last 3 or 4 years. But Pep's learning as well. This is the toughest challenge that Pep's ever had as a manager. You know, managing the squad over that domestic campaign and in those cup competitions. It's the hardest challenge that any manager could face. And I mean, for fuck's sake, guys, we did a quadruple last season. You know, we won 4 fucking trophies. You know, the trophies that we've won in the last 2 seasons are more than the club's ever won. You know what I mean? Like, even in that glory period in the 60s and the League Cup in 76 and shit like that.
I think what frustrated me last year, Rob, was do you remember the first game against Liverpool at Anfield? We drew 0-0 and Mahrez missed
Riyad Mahrez's wonderful penalty.
But in that game, I remember watching it thinking, right, this is the true test because we got absolutely blitzed the season before at Anfield.
Yes, we did.
But in that game, we seemed to find this plan B, and we kept the shape perfectly. Liverpool had hardly any chances against us, and I was like, bingo, Pep's got it. He's got it.
We shown them for what they were in that game. We shown them to be bang average. We fucking shown them big time. But the one problem for me was, why was there no pecking order for the penalty? I know it doesn't fucking matter now, and I know that fucking we won the league anyway. But why was there no pecking order? That you know when you look for chinks in armor, when you look for the tiny, that is one of them. It's like, where was the leader on the pitch? Where was the pecking order? I mean, I know Gabby Jesus misses penalties. I know that Aguero misses penalties. They probably all fucking miss penalties, but why? Mahrez, the brand new boy at the club, you know, so no company on the pitch, no captain on the pitch, no fucking true leader on the pitch, and it was just sort of like, you know, when you're arguing with your mates in the park, or you got 5-a-side and you get a penalty because, you know, you pretend to be a referee and you're like, oh, that's a penalty, and then everyone's like, fucking, oh, let me take the free kick. You know, when you got little kids and you're arguing like, oh, I want this free kick, I'll definitely score, and then they just balloon it over the bar or it goes out for a throw-in. It felt, for a split second, it felt like that was going on at City, and it was like...
It was a weird one, letting the new lad, like, he's the new boy on the block, letting him take it. I mean, the pressure on him for that penalty would have been ridiculous. It's just, so it was a weird one. It was a really weird one.
Don't get me wrong, if he would have scored it, I would have been fucking talking statues. Don't get me wrong, but it just felt so strange.
If you remember in that game, though, we should have had 2 penalties earlier on.
Yeah.
When Aguero was on the pitch, and that's what really annoyed me, because I was like, they were probably clearer penalties than the one we got, and we didn't get those. And then when we actually got the penalty, we didn't have the main man on the pitch to take it, so it just went against us that day. But didn't matter in the end, did it?
Didn't matter. So, final thoughts, Willie?
I think next year, I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully another good season. Transfer-wise, yes, I think we need another defender. And we need to get lucky with injuries next year. And then, as you say earlier, I hope Phil Foden comes in and plays really well, because I think I see him as a natural replacement to David Silva. Because he's practically got the same skill set as David Silva. He just got that little bit more pace. I know David Silva's getting on in age, but he's also got that finishing ability. I know David Silva gets a lot in the box and around. I think he'd be classed in the same bracket as like Xabi and Iniesta if he scored more goals. David Silva.
One of my criticisms of David Silva for years and years. I mean, other people have criticised David Silva because he's not quite. They claim that he's not quite in the Xavi and Iniesta bracket because he's 10% more of his passes don't get to the target than they would if it was Xavi or Iniesta making the passes, and that might be fair. But one of my biggest criticisms for David Silva was his goal scoring.
Yeah.
Not that it matters because he creates so many fucking goals anyway.
Yeah, but you like to have a midfielder who has got it all. So that's where I see Foden, because he's got a great finishing ability. Like, I think he was at England were playing France, I think it was. Took it by 3 players and then just stroked it into the bottom corner. And that was a really good goal. So I'm hoping that he kicks on next season. And yeah, I can't wait for the football season to start again. This summer has been dry.
we'd fucking love to have a Mank back in the team.
Hmm.
I mean, I know we had oh shit, what was he called? Michael Johnson, the next Colin Bell at one point, and he had horrific injuries and his career just sort of died off. And before that, really, it was Paul Lake, wasn't it, Kiam? That there was our true Mancunian. I know we've had other Mancunians, we've had Brightwells and stuff like that, but Paul Lake was like this world-class footballer, or would have been world-class footballer. If Paul Lake was 20, 21 years old now in that Manchester City team, I do think he would be in there. And we need, I know Phil Foden's from Stockport, which is, a technicality, but just to have that local representation in your team, would just be the next level. And especially if he is as good as we all fucking hope and pray he is,
He showed flashes already.
Of course he has. Of course he has. So, Kiam, over to you, son.
Yeah, so like Willie said, I'm excited really just to get the season underway. I think we're going to have another fantastic season. I mean, it's dream world really now. Being a City fan, you can just relax. I never get stressed anymore. I watch games and I'm like, we're going to just deal with this. Even if you're 2-0 down in a match, you're going to come back or make a fight of it. So it's pretty much dream world. So in terms of signings, I would like to see Sané sort out his contract. That one's dragging on a bit for me, and it's a little bit annoying. I think he needs to either sign on the dotted line or move him on so we can make plans. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure about a centre back. I have a feeling that our business might be done for the summer. I don't know what. Yeah,
I have that same feeling.
Yeah, because I think there's a new sort of strategy now. You saw it last year where we just bought Mahrez. I think there's a strategy where we just had one or two and that's it. We close the checkbook and we go for the net spend trophy with Liverpool. So I don't know if we're going to be doing any more business, but the squad's good enough as it is. We've got plenty of cover defensively. Like I mentioned, I don't know if we've got enough to actually win the Champions League. So it would be a shame if we don't sign a centre back because I don't think we've got enough. I think we're going to be a little bit too gung ho again and a bit erratic at the back. But in terms of the domestic leagues, we will dominate. I'm pretty sure of it. We're going to dominate, and it's just a great time to be a Blue.
Well, see, the Mancini philosophy was to have 3 or 4 world-class strikers, wasn't it? And that was how we piled through games. That was how we got the points. That was how we scored the goals and won. Whereas, to me, at the minute, we've got 2.5 centre-halves, really. Otamendi, who's out of favour. I still think he's a really good centre-half, but he's getting on in age.
I think Otamendi's done, yeah. I think he's done, to be honest. I think he's a little bit erratic.
Yeah, but then you've got Laporte and Stone. So for me, I don't want it to be a missed opportunity. I just think that we should just fucking bite the bullet and sign Maguire. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. But at least we fucking know either way. Then you know what I mean. And I think that signing Maguire is the difference between winning the Champions League this coming season and not winning the Champions League. Not that it will be him that wins us the Champions League, but it's the fact that we will need to fucking rotate players.
He's the piece in the jigsaw that we need. That sort of, like you say, that aggression and that big guy at the back. But I think you should prepare yourself, Rob, because I've got a feeling he's going to end up at Old Trafford. So,
the biggest mistake of his fucking career if he did, because that is a fucking suicide move, that.
Oh, yeah, he'll be playing guitar or piano or whatever it is, and, that'll be his career done. But, yeah, I mean, it's a shame about the other lad as well, De Ligt. I think he would have been amazing, and he seems to be a leader as well, but obviously I think he's going to Juventus now, and his agent's a bit of a git as well. So
anyone would want to go to that Italian league. Fucking crazy to want to go to that league.
You're just ending your career basically.
Yeah. He'll walk it though, because he'll be fucking 10 times faster than every other player there. Yeah,
and it's a shame that, because I thought we could seriously go in for him, but I don't think City really want to mess around with that agent, and I think they want to stay clear of him now. So I don't know. I think we're going to have another great season. I just worry about the Champions League. I just don't think we're going to have enough if we don't actually get that centre back. So that's the only fear I've got. But on the Angelino signing, really, really excited about Angelino. I think that's a fantastic move to bring him back. Not just for football terms, because I rate him. I used to watch him when the EDS used to play at Hyde. I used to go and watch and I rated Angelino and I rated Maffeo. So
Yeah,
I
me
wanted
too.
to see it.
Big
I
time.
wanted to see them both come back, but I'm happy. One of them's back, and I think Angelino coming back gives all the other young players that roadmap to the first team. They know what they need to do now. Even if we sell them or we move them on, there's a way back into the team, and I think that's just a massive, massive thing to have, because we're always accused of selling players and we don't value youth, but now the players know that there is a route into the first team. So I think it's a huge signing.
That's honestly why I give zero fucks about the Sancho situation. It meant nothing to me. With like he went and played in the German league. Obviously, all of the British media were fucking in love with him, even though he had about fucking 3 good performances in the entire season. He's now worth a fortune, blah, 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 blah. Product of City's academy that failed to make it City. He's now a world beater, blah, 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 blah. But we've got Angelino back, and I think Angelino, I've said this before about the when Pellegrini, when we went to Chelsea and we lost 4-1 or 5-1 or whatever it was, and he put out a load of youth players, and 2 of those youth players were Angelino and Maffeo. And I rated them massively. I thought they were excellent. And it's just, I don't think he'll be first choice, but I think when he comes in there, he will do a bang up job. What about other players like Zinchenko? What we're going to get out of Zinchenko this coming season? If Delph is leaving the club, and going to Everton for 8-9 million or whatever it is, will Gundogan stay? What about these sort of players? These fringe players?
Yeah, I mean, Zinchenko has been fantastic, hasn't he? A left back coming in and covering. He sort of made it his own position, pushing Mendy really for that position.
Yeah.
But it's going to be nice to see him get the opportunity to play in his natural position, which I think is it more of like midfield role?
It was attacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many opportunities he'll get in that role, but it'll be good just to have him in there. Every squad needs a utility player, doesn't it? You used to have like, I can't think of names off the top of my head. Obviously, I think of United with Phil Neville or whatever, that kind of player who just did anything for the team, and that's what we've got now with Zinchenko. So I think it's good. I mean, Gundogan or Gundogan, however you want to say it. I could take it. I really could take him or leave him. I'm not overly fussed. And
I just think if we can get 20-30 million out of selling him and get the wages off the books, it doesn't matter either way for me.
Yeah, I'd snap your hand off for 30 million. Yeah.
And it's not that he's a bad player. It's just he's just surplus, I think.
He's a very, very good player. He's a very talented footballer, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something that he lacks in the pace of the Premier League, I think. Yes. And you just see it in the games. It's something
and
just
that's
not.
That's only going to get worse. That's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So this is your last chance. Anything else you want to say about City?
Anything else I want to say about City? No, just that I love City. To be honest, it's been my life for so long, and feel very, very lucky to have been a supporter. I remember everything from, Alex Williams back at the old City Social Club and jibbing into the ground when I was a kid and doing junior blues and all that kind of thing. And it's been a massive part of my life. Feel really privileged to have, met so many good people through City and, been on such a great journey with them. So I'm in Canada now, but it's just a huge part of my life. And I just love them. And I'm so happy that we're being successful and we're seeing some glory days now.
Absolutely. Do you want to give a shout out to that supporters club near you as well?
Yeah, shout out to the Vancouver Supporters Club. They're based at the Cinema Pub on Granville Street. So if any City fans are heading to Vancouver, give me a shout if you want on Twitter, Kiam and CFC, and we can put you in touch and you can go down there and enjoy a beer and watch the game.
Excellent. I'll give a little shout out to my supporters club as well, which is the Bertie Blues, in tribute to Glauber Bertie, the 6-minute Brazilian wonder.
Yeah, I remember him.
William?
As a new fan, I just like to say thanks for having me and part of the City family, and I hope I can get down to more games and celebrate what City stands for, and hopefully there's many, many more years of success to come.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad, would it? All right. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your time. I thought we've got 2 hours, 2.5 hours we've done there. I think that's flown by. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
for
Rob.
having us.
Thank you very much for having us on, Rob. Appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Excellent.
And nice to meet you, Willie, as well. Take
Nice
care,
to meet you
mate.
too, Kiam.
Yeah, all the best.
And to everyone out there listening to the podcast, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. This is all for this week for Manchester City Fan TV podcast Raw.